is up, everyone out there on the intertubes? I need to get my props. Imagine this is me flipping a tube. Anyway, what is up? We are Midnight Ranting. In fact, was Joseph Smith a prophet of Zod? Wait, God. I meant God. Whichever one's stronger. We've had more film footage of Zod lately. Anyway, where we're throwing a modern day debate inspired after party on was Joseph Smith a prophet of God? You gotta point up. If you say prophet of God and point down. Anyway, won't you join James W., who is with Gilbert right now in hell, but he's going to be joining us in a second, and myself, Amy Newman, for a good time worth getting your own planet. Oh my God, Kolob, my Bolob. What is up, everyone out there on the inner tubes? Please don't forget, all of the stuff that I say in my sleep at this point. But it does help when you like, the follows, the subscribes. Hello, everybody out there on the chatosphere, because when you hit that bell icon to all, you'll get reminders to see all of our premieres as well as our live streams, like this one. We'll do it live. Speaking of cursing, I did a episode just very specifically, not because that came up on the Brett Keane show, but it was an actually good conversation. I'm going to be uploading that because it was me having mostly a discourse with a bunch of other creationists. So do. But yes, when you do hit that bell icon, we could say hi to you. It means I could be like, what is up? What is up, Ember and Anathema? What is up, Shane? Speaking of Shane, can I also say, I think that Bryce looks like Shane the Skeptic's brother. Does anyone else see it? Am I crazy? That's not a bad thing. I'm just saying. And also, speaking of which, if we could just very quickly talk about the subject in the middle of me giving shout outs to everybody. Please, Bryce, you now have to pay for Kyle's hospital bills. I'm sorry. We live in America. Probably who knows what type of health insurance he has, and that was a beatdown. I don't know what it is about Mormons. What is it about them that makes them like, he has this like, and look, the other guy, it was very cheery. He's very nice. He's always smiling, like, and me, who smiles basically like I'm a pageant, criticizing anyone for smiling, but they just have this look like them, like, if I was a snake oil salesman, that's the person that I would want. I'd be like, yes. Nonetheless, I'm sure we can get through. It was a lovely debate. You should all go check it out in the description. What is else? Purple Rise with Orange and Matasaro and Sinister Porpoise. Thank you, Watch. My watch is like, hey, a stream is coming up. That is true. It also reminds me to breathe. I just want to thank. Sending love to smartwatches. What is up, Brian the Mod? What is up, Shade Billowitz? What's up, Shade? Sending more loves to Shades. But and funny enough, one of my best friends growing up was named Shane. That's why I like that name, I think. Might be because I like S names. I like A names, S names. I like all names, but you can see it when I create characters. That's why I sometimes just create characters that aren't those, just to give Good old contrast. Anyway, we're talking, was Joseph Smith a prophet of God? In a second, I'm going to open it up to the open mic because I want to hear what you all thought about the debate, the topic, or, Taco Tuesday in general. Sometimes we need to hang out on air. Been working in NGD2. Oh, what's up, Brian? That is true. Absolutely. It'd be lovely to have you on, to have streams back and forth. I am all for it. You are in a fantastic mod, if I may say so. Modding, I have had to learn the hardest thing. It's the same thing with teaching. Is and this sounds like I'm patting myself on the back when I say this, and yet it can sometimes cause problems. And so you're like, maybe you should pat yourself on the back less. But I'm too nice. I'm sometimes just too nice. And I need to... I have my moments where I can get very mean, especially if people are mean to me. Nonetheless, I have to... The hardest part, I think, about being a mod, the more I've thought about it, is that you want to be nice to the people in front of you, and yet the actual people that you're supposed to be catering to is the audience. And so I think I'm starting to feel that. I think you do an excellent job at that and refocusing attention and all that. Anyway, sending so much love also to a $5 super chat. Disciple Deig sending so... Oh, I keep... Every time, basically, it says... Well, I can't help it. No shout out needed. But if it was like an and or statement, it was just an or. And I allowed it. Do. A lot of IT comes up and then adjacently biology when we're talking about creationists. They want to very much for DNA to be a code. All about that genes, baby. My total sad ass to watch debates. Oh, sending so much love, James Wolfe. It was lovely to see you out there. And it was a fun debate. I tried to answer that one question. If you see that debate, I think I only got one question. But I try to answer it as gracefully as I can, because I know that is almost like... I can tell when I'm sending bait to creationists, when I'm just like, I have breadcrumbs, and I'm just like... And so I always have to remind myself in that moment. I'm like, it's just breadcrumbs. Just let the breadcrumbs hit you in the face. Just to say who you are, and then move on to the question, which I think I did. Oh, what is up? What the heck? Sending love. Should all be checking out his channel. All of the atheists. Materialist Dan. What is up? Chike. I think in a second, I'm just going to do the very quick, and I promise you, the very quick out is the shout outs for all of the love and support that you've all been given. But I think I'm going to get the link up into chat. I'll say what my defining moment. I told him, because, well, I think very specifically when he went, okay, Kyle, I guess I'll start off with said, no, the Book of Mormon has nothing to do with Mormonism. Now, I know they think Mormon is a slur, and you're supposed to say the Church of Latter-day Saints, but it kind of went, okay, so it's all about miracles. It is all about Jesus Christ having that personal connection. But also, we kind of have this book over here, if you would like to check it out. Don't know, but it's the third chapter of the Abrahamic religions. It kind of is a run for your money with Islam, but he didn't like that comparison, or he seemed very open to just accepting. He's just pro-Abrahamic religion. The Mormon guy wants to debate that we never landed on the moon. Yes, he was a flat earther. That was the other thing. That, like, that's what I like about, well, first of all of the creationists, they all have different views. Like, not a single guy in one of them. Like, if you were to put them in a pew, just the left to the right, none of them have their own beliefs. But they kind of play off each other if we could just get two of them in a room with each other. Because there's Mormons that are going to think, like, yeah, okay, we get, like, the gold plates. That's complete legit. But, like, the earth is round. Come on, don't make us look silly. Nonetheless, there has to be, just to enjoy this for a moment, that means somewhere in flat earth circles, they're like, look, I understand that the earth is flat. I mean, you look outside, everything just looks flat. You look at a picture, it's flat. A real argument I got once from a flat earther. We're on the correct timeline, probably. But sending so much love out there. We are talking, was Joseph Smith a prophet? And then they go, but this Mormon thing. I lost my train of thought. You can feel it for a second. Jesus in space. Also, the planet really is called Kolob. Can we just hang on that for a second? Also, it's not a planet. Can I also put this? This is how much Joseph Smith did not know about physics, but they consider Kolob a star, and they consider stars places where you live. So it's not even a planet. But you get your own star to live on. So good luck with that. All right, enough of me rambling. I just think that it was a good tackled home position, and sending love to modern day debate. With that, there are many ways to support the channel. We're about to go into the open mic. In fact, I'll even put it out. That'll be my rushingness to get quickly to the open mic, because normally it takes 40 minutes for me to say hello. That sounds about right on Amy time. Nonetheless, I'm going to type out how you can join the panel. I'm even going to do the clickety-clack, because dead air is even worse. You're going to hear it. Here we go. I'm going to narrate it. Here we go. Join the clickety-clack. I'm not even wearing acrylic nails anymore. But they're still my favorite color. Putting that out there. It's summer, ladies and gentlemen. People can't say that all I do is wear the color black. Right there. Anyway, sending so much love. Hope that magic underwear is fireproof. That's right. They like to say that it's like a spiritual protection. It's not like it can protect you from, I guess, the boogeyman or someone's virginity. Oh, and I see people joining. But it's kind of like Whitey Tighties on steroids. You've ever seen them? It kind of looks like it was fashioned by a very heterosexual male. Now listen, I love me some heterosexual males as a bisexual. But if that is the best that a prophet of God can do, I would say, let Calvin Klein do his thing, I guess. But who am I? I'm just a non-profit. Not a 401c3, just very specifically. I'm not making profits off being a prophet, which is what I think prophets do, make profits. Anyway, what's up, Pinch Thinker? I've been doing it, and now I'm seeing lots of people join, which means, okay, I'm going to focus. Here we go. But BT dubs. We all need to FUCUS, which to me is a good weekend. Shout out, sending love. You can join our channel membership. Not only can you subscribe, but become part of the Skeptic and Ranting channel membership family, as we have our evolving badge system. And the thing about our evolving badges is that it has the one thing that creationists hate. They say we worship it. It's crazy. It's this thing we call time. Somehow the badges, they just... What's that word? It starts with an E. Halv. Shmanov. McClove. Evolve. There it is. That word seems to attack our education system from the creationists. Well, we had a debate with Ken Hoven. We should upload that also. Oh, I wanted to upload the other one I had with Brett. I need to get those up then. Do. Anyway, sending love. Channel membership, FECUS. As well as our wonderful... I sometimes see people ask, they're like, why does Amy do all of these like really loud gestures? I will say, I think, my opinion, ADD. But when I tell people that, to me, it feels like I'm standing still, because when I do this, I could feel it. I can be like this. Oh my God. It feels like there's weights being pushed against me by just being like this. It feels better. You just do this. It feels like I'm standing still. Much better. Anyway, sending so much love out to our Patreons at patreon.com/ABD. What? I should send that out there. It's going out there, in there, though, no matter what you are, as a supporter, we're sending love, including Chris Disciple, sending so much love. That's right. We have theists that are skeptics. Just got to have a little doubt in your beliefs. Dale Pastel, sending so much love. We're looking for a little bit of empirical evidence. James Wolfe, I saw him out there sending so much love. We have at the moon, the one and only Rachel Holen, who is at a concert right now. She's rocking right now. It's like this movie type of concert that's like being projected from, I think, like Texas. Welcome to the digital age, ladies and gentlemen. It's not the Pantera concert. It's a Metallica concert. Anyway, sending so much love, Rachel Holen. Sending so much love to Senator Cato, running a saturation of church and state. Sending so much love to davegar. I saw davegar out there, and sending so much love, reminding us the earth is round. Oh my goddess. This is a problem because we're in the wild west of the internet, okay? We all have access to information, but imagine that it's like a fire hose. It's just boom. And eventually, as we stop believing in these superstitious belief systems and accepting just science, but it says .org. It's a creationism is very right.org. Anyone can buy a domain name. There's no domain name overlords. You better be within a network. If it's a .net, you better be giving him. If I don't see info on a .info, we will find you. We're not sure how. We don't have any info. Sending love so much as well too. Regos providing to a skeptic Bible study. The last two sending so much love. I'm supposed to get their props. We might as well get them. Because when I have a Bible study, you have to have, very specifically Yahweh. I believe that's Yahweh. Yes. Barbaretta. As well as, well, I guess the reason we're in this mess. Every time. If I had a nickel for every time a talking snake brought about the destruction of the human species, let me tell you, wouldn't even have college debt, probably. Anyway, finally, last but not least, and then I'm going to stop blabbing. We're going to hand it over to the open panel. Sending so much love to the one and only Ian Davenport, reminding us that, well, doesn't matter if it's Pascal's wager, watchmaker, a contingency argument, a Kalam argument. I once saw those two arguments, by the way, in bed together. All of them tend to be really, really bad. It's very interesting trying to see Kyle try to explain this 2 million people that were supposedly in New York. I guess I'm so numb to it, I forget about this. That they I'm sorry, TOS. I love you. I love you. Who doesn't love the TOS? But they're one of those groups that are like, oh, we know who the real Jews are. And every time, by the way, if you ever hear someone say that, just so I agree. I actually, wow, my friends at the other side of the bus, though. Oh my God, that's so nice, though. But yes, no, they're not racist. Native Americans, Jews. I think Mel Brooks, played this concept out fairly well. So I guess we'll just leave it at that. They were very racist till the 70s. But I mean, disco was out. I mean, basically the same thing. Whatever, we'll do an ad campaign. It'll be fine. What are we talking about? Mormonism. We sure were, unfortunately. Joseph Smith. There's actually a lot of lovely ex-Mormons out there that come on here. We'll see. Sending so much love out there. I know. Oh, Montessori. Exactly. Those people. I always say, because I consider myself a ex-Jewish person, I always say whenever those people try to tell me who the real Jews are, I'm always like, take them. Just, you have it. I'm going to be over here. I'm going to be eating a hot dog. Maybe I'll put cheese and bacon on it. You go have a good time doing whatever it is you do. Sending so much love, Shane Billowitz. The serpent in the Garden of Eden was actually Rudy Giuliani. I knew it because you could tell on the back of the snake there was hair dye. I knew it the entire time. I knew that was a piece. It's terrible. Sending so much love to Shane Billowitz, sending love to all of our members. All right, I have been blabbing. It was a very interesting debate. Go check it out. It's in the channel description. And we're now going to go into the open panel. We are a skeptic channel. However, we support everyone, whether you are atheist or theist, liberal or conservative. Come as you are. Just try to aim for something. And we're going to get everyone in. Just try to, you don't have to be within a sentence or two, but try to be pithy so we can get everyone in. And then once everyone's in, anyone can say whatever they want. And so with that, we are going into the Kyle debate. And it's going. Oh, I am not sure. That might mean that he's pulling it down to just upload it. I'm not sure. I thought the debate went well, though. Well, the debate as a debate went well. I think that, yes. I don't know, like I said, I don't know what it is about Mormons. I think, South Park and Beamsy were both hinting at the same. Dun, 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 dun. Anyway, it's not an ad hominem because we love them. Anyway, we're going into it. We have TCP coming in, chloroform and print distributor. We are going into the open mic, but we have Matt Tesaro, Ryan, Stephanie, Materialist Dan in that order going up. We're going to get everybody in right now.
All right, good evening. So, what is it you want to know about Mormons? Maybe I can help you with that.
It is just a unique thing in that I think all religions are at some level and at some point were very close-knit cults, and that it's like taking water, to show off my filliness, and just diluting it the larger it gets. The larger it gets, the harder that it seems to be to handle. Maybe I'm just working out the answer myself, but my question would really be is, why is it that they have this? He just had this look about him that was so happy, and yet what he was saying was so... What I'm trying, a Rolodex of not nice words are going on in my head. Think, Amy, think. Was not correct. Was way off of this is reality. And then...
Well, speaking only to my experience as a Mormon, you have to pretty much keep telling yourself over and over things like, I know the church is true. I know Joseph Smith is a prophet of God. I know whoever the current prophet is a prophet. I don't know who it is anymore, and it's generally trying to convince yourself that you're told over and over again that this should make you happy. So a lot of times what you'll find is a lot of Mormons put forth this front, and really they're just miserable. I can't speak for everyone, and for some people this is where the break comes. But I also want to say that was just painful, because I think one of the more interesting things that went on here is Kyle would not accept reasonable standards of evidence. The problem is the church claims to be the sole arbiter of truth. At least the Mormon church, because that's the way I'm just going to refer to it. As the sole arbiter of truth and having the whole truth as they claim, that means no statements they make can be false. As I think Bryce was trying to point out, merely finding one of those things to be false, like, I don't know, what's the most ridiculous claim in the Book of Mormon?
The most ridiculous claim is, well, I guess I was just talking about one of them. There's a few, but one would be that the original Native Americans were the Israelites.
Good. I was looking for something different than my usual example of the Bronze Age submarines. But
and so, yeah.
It's like, yeah, we have multiple lines of evidence that do not point to a Middle Eastern origin for the Native Americans. And his thing is like, we haven't found it yet. It's like, well, yeah. Oh, hi, Kitty. Hi, Athena. Do you want camera time, Athena?
I like that you said hi, Kitty, and she responded.
Yes, there are Bronze Age submarines palm dead. I think it's the first 3 chapters of Ether in the Book of Mormon, if you want to look it up. But it was just, he would not accept that empirical evidence was the way to go. He wanted to say, he wanted to use essentially the burning in the bosom test that Mormons use, that I think is in Mormon or Moroni, I forget which one, to tell whether or not it's true. It's like, yes, I can pray about something getting burning of the bosom, and if I don't know, drink coffee right after I pray, I might get the idea that coffee is true.
I also just want to point out that there are a far range of gels and other creams that you could put on there and just it'll warm up and start tingling. All of these are options.
And what I saw was that Bryce could not get him to that standard of evidence. He kept wanting to say, no, this is the other standard of evidence. It's almost as if he doesn't understand how mathematical and logical proofs work in this case. And he kept trying to bring up, like, it's like, oh yeah, people say you can't prove things. It's like, well, it depends on what you mean, because in logic and math and computer science, you can prove things 100%. But when they say prove things in science, they mean there is a lot of evidence that supports this idea.
Sure. I agree. Yeah, mathematics tends to deal with proofs, and then we look for scientific evidence. They're sometimes interchangeable in lay audiences, but when we're actually talking about what they're supposed to be, there's that. But yes, I would say make one more, or I know I will say of all the many of the people coming on, I know you are an ex-Mormon, so sending love, Sinister, for joining us. But we're gonna get some people on in a second. But I do want to get, because you are an ex-Mormon, I do want. Is there anything that you would just like to say on the subject?
Honestly, I find Kyle Adams somewhat painful. And, well, it just reminds me of, like, it reminds me of a fast and testimonies meeting, which I would probably go now and find hilarious. But as a kid, when I got drugged to them, first of all, you're not supposed to eat, because the money that day is supposed to get donated to help members of the ward who don't have enough to eat, and the money's supposed to get donated to feed them. It's a long, boring ceremony. You're expected to sit, and then you have to go through, like, all these old women getting up, like, telling how much they hate their husbands and crying. And some men get up telling us, like, how I'm going to be a better priesthood holder. It's like the same repeated phrases over and over at the end, like, I know their church
This
is
is
true.
not a scam. This is not a scam.
It's like, it's what's the technique called that it's been compared to?
Karma Sutra. No.
I think it's been compared to a mind control technique, but
I'm trying to think. Like a Pavlov's dog kind of thing?
Well, I want to be careful about using this phrase, because a lot of people call the Mormons a cult, and I don't think it's quite there. I think it's gotten away from that a bit, but it's still evolving.
That's okay. I'll call it a cult for you. Sponsored by Nabisco. Just kidding. No, they should send me cookies. Yeah, it's just because they all have. It always creeps me out, and I know they're like this coming from that on screen, and I'm like, yes, but it always creeps me out about the taking leaders from dead people. Whenever they're like, oh, you don't understand. The boss gave me orders to do this. And I'm like, oh, yeah? Let me speak to him. And they say, well, you'd have to be dead. You know what? I'm going to take the next... I was going to say plane ride, but I guess that's not a good example. Okay. Religion. It just fills your heart with warmth. But yes, last point.
Just one more thing to all the ex-Mormons out there. Do something Kyle hasn't done, and give yourself permission to look at historians like D. Michael Quinn, who will go into things like the Missouri Mormon War. And non-Mormon historians. Don't go to the ex-Mormon sources, but there's a lot Joseph Smith did that there is actual evidence for that is not good.
Look, he can find water. All you got to do is hold this very specific stick like this. Woo! Yo, this stick basically has 5G. You wouldn't believe it. Anyway, sending so much love. We are going to keep on moving in. I'm going to give Matasaro this entrance. I'll think what he thinks about it, because I go back and forth on some of the sometimes I get flack for even quoting him, because he could be controversial depending on the circles. But I take Joe Rogan's definition of the difference between a cult and a religion. And that's, you want to know the difference between a cult and a religion. In a cult, the leader knows that he's full of it. In a religion, that guy's dead. That tends to be my working definition of the difference between a cult and a religion. But yes, I know I could be convinced otherwise, I'm sure. Then they always tell me, my number one argument against this, they always say, do you know why it's not a cult? Because it's right. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, then jump off the cliff. I didn't know it was right. Why didn't you say so from the beginning? Anyway, let's bring in Matsuro. We are Midnight Ranting on Was Joseph Smith a prophet of God? I have Mossad in my ear. You say something like that, and then Soros just comes down. Matasaro, we are talking, was Joseph Smith a prophet of God? And what are your thoughts? The debate, the topic, or anything to talk about?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Howdy. Nice to talk to everyone. So the debate, I think Kyle's is a Poe. He's either a Poe, or what is more likely is I think he's just there to preach Mormonism. He's like knocking on doors digitally. He says he's there for debate, but really he's just there to preach, which is why he opened with a prayer, which was interesting. And as far as the definition of cult, I like Joe Rogan's definition. I don't like Joe Rogan, but I like that definition, which means that the person who executed Joseph Smith actually upgraded them from a cult to religion, apparently.
He got killed by an angry mob. I wouldn't call it an execution.
Well, then the mob spoke and promoted him to religion if the definition is that the leader is dead. The debate was good. My personal peeve with debates of that nature are if I don't believe the person on either side is being honest or genuine or is there for a debate, it turns me off hardcore. Like, Poes bother me. Most flat earthers know they're lying, and I hate when people pretend to be something that they're not in order to have a debate. And Kyle has given me that smug, smartest kid in his limited circle at church vibe, 100%. Like, he's the one that they picked to go argue with the atheists, and he thinks he's good because he's better than all the other Mormons, but in reality, he's not. And I just don't think he's genuine. He literally said during that debate there was nothing that could be said to convince him of any topic, basically. And it's all just a feeling in his gut. And the same piece of evidence means his God's true, regardless of where it comes from. So, like the example of if a Christian said my miracle is caused by Jesus, and someone who believed in Zeus said my miracle was caused by Zeus, how could you tell which one was right? And using his logic, you couldn't. And as a matter of fact, taking that to the next step, he turned everything into proof for his crap. Like, no matter what you said, he flipped it into this. Oh yeah, that's a good point. That just means I'm more right. And it was just not a very engaging debate for me. Although Bryce kicked some serious ass. It's the first time I've ever seen him debate, and there was some skill there. So I definitely appreciated the beatdown intellectually.
Yeah, I kind of wish they'd stop platforming Kyle Adams, because I think it's getting him a following he doesn't deserve.
Yeah, and it's also, like I said in the chat, every time I see him, it makes me almost unsubscribe to MDD, and that's not what you might be putting out, in my opinion. He's just not. He's not intelligent. He's not logical, and he's not following the conversation at all.
But really, that's what you think, is that he is he has the smug, smartest kid? Because if that is the best that Mormons have to offer, like, my goddess, this is a shout out to all the agnostic and atheists. They're working on themselves.
That was intended to be damning by as faint praise as possible. And I grew up in the Bible Belt, and I was one of the smarter kids in school, and so I was regularly a target of the brave church kid, because I was also an atheist, so I was hated and also well known. And so I would have random kids come up to me, and you could tell, like, their peers were like, yeah, this is the time that he's going to get smacked down. And the best they had was not very good, because they don't teach their young critical thinking. They teach the opposite. So they tend to be very badly and very badly in debates. And you wind up either having someone who is just ignoring everything, like Kyle, or someone who's just a huckster, like Ken Ham, or there's just folksy bullshit, and it's all a grift. And I don't know if they believe in the grift, like in their heart, or they know they're grifting. They just like the power or the respect. or a mixture of both. But there were some points where, in that debate, Bryce literally mocked him with the most perfect, just like, you think there were steel bows in 2000 BC, and just let that stand. And that was worth the price of admission, in my opinion.
Yeah, just for the record, steel was first reliably smelted around 1300 in Europe, which I had to look up, but I just want to I think you're missing something about Mormonism, Matastero, that as someone who isn't an ex-Mormon, you may not know. Kyle comes off as the type of Mormon who's really trying hard to convince himself it's true, even though probably in his mind he has a lot of questions of like, this doesn't match up, this doesn't match up. But in order to, save face and keep the faith, he tries to repeat himself over and over so he can keep what Mormons refer to as their testimony.
Yeah, and that was like I've known Mormons. I wouldn't say I was like super. I'm more familiar with like Jehovah's Witnesses and regular, your standard flavor of Christian. But that's what I still can't tell. I've seen Kyle debate a couple times, and I get part of that, like he's just desperately trying to keep himself against. He's trying desperately to hold himself against the fortress of cognitive dissonance. But at the same time, he's got that smug smile when he thinks he makes a good point, and I don't like it. It makes me feel like but it might just be my personal experience tainting my vision of him.
And all right, on that note, I'm actually going to keep on getting people in because we still have a bunch of people backstage. We are going to get Stephanie in here. We are Midnight Ranting on Was Joseph Smith a Prophet of God? And with that, Stephanie, we are Midnight Ranting on Was Joseph Smith a Prophet of God? Hope you're doing well. And what are your thoughts about the debate, the topic, or anything we've been talking about tonight?
Well, no, he was not. Because
End of podcast.
God who?
Good night, everyone.
I'll be honest, I didn't see the debate, and I'm not an ex-Mo, and I don't know. The thing that always fascinates me about Mormonism is the development of the religion out of the burnt-over district of Palmyra and that area where my family, my grandparents, my great-grandparents were living at the time, and they were deeply involved in the Methodist Church and in the revivals around that time and space and all of this. It's fascinating to me that that whole piece of history and culture, that when I look at Bryce's stuff, and I've watched a good deal of it. I used to listen to his podcast back in the day, ages ago, breaking down the history of the Mormon Church and all of that stuff, and the interpersonal relationships and all of this. It's amazing that the faith has had so much stability over the course of 150 years. It's amazing. It's just, but no, Joseph Smith, prophet of God, I don't think so. Joseph Smith, the man's story is fascinating, and his capacity for storytelling was obviously compelling. And I think that's what makes prophets of God. It's not reliant. You don't need to be true to be a prophet of God, because what you're doing is talking about a fictional character in the first place from the jump. And but people will buy it, and it's weird. It's as if somebody was a prophet of Eru Iluvatar and managed to sell it to person after person after person after person in perpetuity. It's really kind of weird. Religions are funny, so I guess that's where I'd leave it.
Religions are extremely funny, and that's being kind. That is being very. And all right, we actually have 4 more people. I'm going to say this out loud because I was typing it. Ryan, I know that you were supposed to be in this mix because I see you last now, but I know you weren't last. And so we have 3 more people, but we're going to get everyone in. We have the lovely, fantastic, everyone. I wasn't going to use fabulous, but everyone's fabulous. Who doesn't want to be fabulous? Ember, we are Midnight Ranting on Was Joseph Smith a Prophet of God? How are you doing? And what are your thoughts about the debate, the topic, or anything we've been talking about tonight?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Actually, just got done with a stream with Stephanie, so I haven't caught the debate. But I suppose, as the saying goes, once you've seen one Kyle Adams debate, you've seen all of them. But as to the topic,
it was something.
I can imagine. I'm gonna have to go watch that. Every time I come here, you give me homework. You're getting too used to this teacher thing, Amy.
Would you like me to give you
Listen.
homework?
But as
I
far
was
as the
going to
topic,
say, very specifically, I will only do that to you, but I'm going to get a pair of glasses and dangle them through my teeth while I do so. Anyway, we're Midnight Ranting.
Oh, brilliant.
But yes, it was a very interesting debate. Let's just say that, because Mormonism, flat Earth. Right back to you, Ember.
yeah, it's an interesting combination that you don't see very often, and it's just, oh my goodness. But yeah, as for Joseph Smith, as you know, I'm on Aaron Ra's show reading Joseph's Myth on Sundays, and you know we're still only a part of the way through the book, but I think it's safe to say that Joseph Smith, while he may not have been a prophet in the metaphysical sense, he did successfully get people to follow him, so maybe that counts.
Counts in our
Yeah,
heart.
anybody can be a prophet of God as long as you get people saying, you're a prophet of God.
Yeah.
And remember, folks, prophets make profits. Each and every
They
time.
sure do. But occasionally they also get shot in the face, which I guess makes his beliefs more true somehow. That's what people keep telling me, though.
I just wanted to come back to something Stephanie said, because it's an interesting part of Mormon history that Mormonism probably may not have happened if it were not for the founding fathers being highly anti-religious, because she mentioned the burned over region.
Right. Yeah.
And it's actually something Mormon scholars bring up frequently about how Joseph Smith may have gotten interested in religion.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, as I've mentioned before, I live near-ish to Palmyra. It's 2 counties over. Nobody talks about like some kind of fire disaster back in the past, but maybe they forgot it on purpose.
Burned over doesn't refer to a fire. It refers to a wave of religious revivalism and fire and brimstone preaching that swept through the early American colonies.
It was the second Great Awakening. I mean, the original Great Awakening was took place in New England. Jonathan Edwards was probably the preeminent figure in that. And it was an era of I wouldn't say critical thinking, but an era of religious fervor, trying to purify. I mean, remember, people were coming out of in the colonies, and the American colonies, and in in New England and Old England, there was a great deal of ferment around concepts of God, what it meant, what religion meant, and the burnt over aspect that Porpoise is talking about was a movement of evangelical presentation that I suppose in 2023 would be equivalent to YouTube proselytizing. The whole come to Jesus. It was a Billy Graham-ish, Billy Graham crusade kind of things that swept through various regions and caused people to fundamentally reevaluate their religious beliefs. And that is really fundamental to the first vision accounts of Joseph Smith. Should I believe the Presbyterians? They came through last week. Should I believe the Methodists? They came through last month. That blah, blah, blah. And so teenage Joseph Smith goes out into the woods and earnestly prays. And believe me, people held these beliefs, raised in these beliefs, honestly believed in the presence of God and the truth of Jesus Christ. So a teenager goes out into the woods and earnestly prays and suddenly receives this vision that says, all of these people are bullshit. This is the truth. And you are to guide the people towards that truth. So it's basically as if a teenager in 1965 read The Lord of the Rings, went out into the woods, and went out and invented a religion proclaiming the truth of Eru Iluvatar. And people believed it because nobody could figure out anything different.
Well, and on that note, I'm actually going to get the last few people in. I'm enjoying the conversation. Thank you to the whole panel. And we are now going to get in Materialist Dan. We have been and are Midnight Ranting on Was Joseph Smith a Prophet of God? I hope you are doing well. What are your thoughts about the debate, the topic, or anything we've been talking about?
And did you have a spooky Mormon hell dream recently?
That's fine. No, but the kind of my thoughts on it are that Kyle, an important point is that he's not typical of Mormon like culture. Like that point, like Bryce really understood like what he's getting, but like he is kind of an outcast within Mormon culture. And the reason that's important is he doesn't really understand the mindset that most Mormons have, where you sort of do submit your identity to the culture as a whole. So you're more concerned with like the image of kind of the collective what do you call it, interest than your own. Whereas someone like Kyle, I think he's more concerned with like personal validation. It's just my experience as a missionary and being a Mormon. Like he's okay. He's the kind of person in Sunday school that's okay with saying something that would scare away new people, but it would make him feel like he's the smartest person in the room. So like he's not typical in Mormonism because he's willing to he's willing to put the mission aside in order to say something, and that's important because most Mormons, like the apologists, I mean he's not the best they have to offer, because the best Mormons have to offer understand that the objective in conversations like this is to not have the conversation. right? It's to completely avoid it, right? You don't give it air. You don't let members have connections to people they know, that like interviews and debates that connect them to ex-Mormons, and like that's exactly what you're not supposed to do as a Mormon, right? He's doing the thing that is frowned upon culturally. The leaders would frown upon it. So like he, you know, I mean, it's very, he's not self-aware of the fact that he's not stepping in line with, and Bryce Blankenagel is like one of the probably top 10 people on earth that is qualified to like criticize Mormonism. Like, you know, it's a professional critic of Mormonism arguing with someone who has like the debate tactics of a new missionary, right? Like he's not, that wasn't fair, right? Like to put it nicely. But yeah, it was kind of just looking at the debate. He obviously wants to avoid any material conversation, right? The facts, everything. I mean, but that's typical. That's the way you're taught to do it. You want to keep it in the abstract because when you're arguing, like it's the reason Mormons prefer to argue with other Christians, because like they prefer to have every single argument they has relies on axioms already being agreed upon that basically already assumes that it's true, right? So like that Kyle doesn't understand that all the arguments he's making are meant for when you're sitting down with someone who already shares part of the axiomatic agreements with you, right? Like he doesn't get that he's using arguments you're only supposed to use when someone's already open to what you're saying. Anyway, yeah. So those are my thoughts. But
I'll say this just to hear what you think about it, Dan, and then we'll move on to Purple and then Ryan. But what I've been hearing, because to me, I was just taking it in how dumbstruck he was to not be able to answer these questions. Like it was some of them, and I felt like he was even able to get him to get in that loop, especially when we were talking about, is it founded on the Book of Mormon? Is the Mormon religion founded on the Book of Mormon? It's a crazy concept, but I think that the vibe that he gives off, and now I think I'm starting to understand what you were all saying about he wants to be the top of whatever the Mormon. I think he gives off a contrarian vibe in that it doesn't, even among Mormons, oh, am I something else?
Well, and he also gave an excellent demonstration of the halting problem. I never knew if he was going to get out of that loop.
But any thought on that? Because this is your opening, Dan. And if not, we're just going to move on to Purple.
yeah, I'm good.
All right. Thank you so very much. Welcome on board. Lovely to have you. Lovely to have everyone with us. We're going to get Purple on here. Purple rhymes with orange. What is up? We are Midnight Ranting on Was Joseph Smith, a prophet of, not Zod. Don't say Zod. God. A prophet of Zod. God.
Hey, Prophet of Zod is cool.
I think it's way cooler.
I have met Prophet of Zod, so I know he exists, and that's a big point up for him.
Hell yeah.
But yes, was Joseph Smith a prophet of God?
Well, I did not see the discussion preceding this, and actually I thought debate was what you put on the hook to catch the fish.
That is true. It's also what we throw towards creationists.
Yeah, but, well, in this context, by God, I assume you're referring to Yahweh. And since Yahweh is, the Bible is self-contradictory, so Yahweh can't exist. So anybody that claims to be his prophet has to be a scammer.
I agree. I also like to refer to them as Christians in space.
Yeah, the bit about everybody getting their own planet does sound appealing.
I know, right?
Although not everybody will. That's only like, what is it, 144,000 people?
That's the Jehovah's Witnesses. And technically, depending on how you read it, only the men get their own planet.
Yep.
Of course. Well, I mean, in fairness, in their view, they're like only people, only men. Exactly.
Yeah, the women are just there to breed to populate the planet.
Yeah, kind of exactly. But yes, anything else, Purple? If not, we're going to.
No,
All
that's
right.
okay. Bring on the next.
Yes, I also want to send love into. I see Dr. Tapioca Weasel, Azora, Tinkle Tink, anyone who I miss, say Regos, everybody, UC Love, Daryl Frost. If I missed you, Yuda, say hi. He's been saying hi since beginning, but I'm just sending double love. Hey, Farron. And all right, with that, let's get our headliner on. Enough blabbing. Ryan, we have been Midnight Ranting on Was Joseph Smith a prophet of God? And what are your thoughts about the debate, the topic, or anything we've been talking about?
Well, firstly, I would say no. I mean, I'm pretty sure Discord during a debate decided I'm God, and that has decided it for me. Officially, when I pass away, I'm going to go back to the end of the universe or the beginning of the universe, and I'm going to touch that little micro piece of dust and burst it all into existence. That will be the end of Ryan, as you know him. I just finished a D&D session, so I'm really a little extra tired. So I just wanted to come on in and hang out and say hi, because I've never had a chance to say hello to you, Amy.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you on. And I also just want to say how... Well, I'll phrase it this way. Did you have good rolls?
Yes. I was DM tonight. So we have 4 friends, and each week we all do DMing. So my campaign is a Pokemon campaign because we're all 90s children. So I'm kind of taking them through a world, and I made my friend have a really traumatizing moment where Gary Oak was having a scientific disagreement with Professor Oak and started strangling him to death. And I made my character experience that moment as if it was himself. So anyways, not to get too off track of what we were talking about, the Joseph Smith thing, but I'm pretty sure I'm a prophet. As you can see, I'm building a world here with a great story. But anyways, they're just about to get to that point in the story where that actual event is happening. So that's been super exciting, but I'm a little tired, of course. But overall, I've hosted Kyle a few times, and my major question I'd have to ask for you, Amy, because I've only watched the first 5 minutes, how much of this was definitional misplacement?
It's a good question, because I find that often that's where the theist and the creationists go to is, listen, everyone has a higher power. Everyone has a God. And so it's almost like these definitional type of battles with Mormons, or at least with this, because sometimes my brain is just sitting there, just trying to be like, are they talking over each other? No, it's a very simple program. But
yeah, we should have mod chat, like the amount of times that you're like, should I just pay attention to the live chat? Is somebody speaking over each other, and then somebody's getting upset with you in the live feed, like, you need to reel this in. I think we probably could talk about that for a long time if we wanted to.
You have to fight facial. That's the hardest part, is that I put energy in trying not to, like, when people say decent jokes and you go, I get it, brain is laughing, and yet I cannot. Because if you laugh, it's almost like you're giving that person a point. It's like when Jon Stewart used to go on Fox News and the crew would laugh. And so
yeah, I mean, I sometimes laugh when I think it's kind of like a shared expression of like somebody's trying to be ironic, or like that's a moment to maybe engage in, because it's like, we should all be able to laugh about this thing. You know, that shouldn't be
True.
something that's controversial. But for me, you know, a lot of times when I'm hosting these debates or talking about these debates, and hi, Ember, by the way, it's been a while since I've seen you. A lot of times when I'm hosting these debates, I'm usually thinking about my wall in the sense of like, anytime that I'm debating with somebody, my wall is the point of, okay, if you can believe this thing for poor reasons, what is there that you can't believe for a poor reason? So for me, it's a matter of, I don't think, and this is kind of exposing myself a bit because I've remained really enigmatic at this point.
We're a late
But-
night podcast. Everyone here, including yourself, please feel free. Expose yourself. Wait,
I think it'll be
TOS.
fine.
But not
No.
on camera.
Soros, please. Yeah,
I
not on camera.
won't break TOS. Don't worry. But I feel like even if there was a notion of religion that was true, which I don't think it is, but even if there was a religion that was true, there is no basis that has been presented on which to believe it. So anybody who is believing on a religion based on their reasoning right now is believing things for poor reasons, even if they're correct. They're believing it for a poor reason. And I think that that is a gateway. And that is my wall when it comes to these discussions, is that if you can believe one thing, just even one thing on poor evidence, and you won't say, okay, I'm going to correct that and try to look into that and maybe readjust my stance. If you can believe one thing for a poor reason, what is there that you cannot believe? And that's always been my sticking point, is that I think that can lead to a lot of dangerous things. It can lead to anything, right? That's the thing. It can lead to good things. It can lead to shit. And
In essence, you're talking about faith.
well, yeah, and I don't think that that is a good way to get to a standpoint of belief, right? Yeah, like you said, it's a late night show. Sure, I'll throw it out there. I'm not a flat earther. I'm a fan. I marched in my my pride parade, right? Like with my kids, you know, like I am
Also,
based.
I can't believe you would say, you would
Hell yeah.
admit that you're a round earther, like online. You
Oh,
know, people
no.
see this, right? And
Oh no,
do it
right?
in
Well,
Lawyer and-
some people get upset because they're like, oh, you know, Ryan said he likes Witsit, and it's more of like, when we're off camera, I do. You know, he's a funny guy, and he's, you know, he usually keeps things interesting in that debate sphere, pun intended. But you know, whereas some other people that I posted in that debate realm, and I know you've hosted a few flat Earth debates, they're not, you know, maybe as
So
interesting
I also now feel
or
a
as
little
fun because
self-conscious
it's work.
about saying people see this, as in like, yeah, that's right, bitches. You watch my podcast. But
Fucking
yes, I'm
right.
sorry, Ryan. It's nothing so much.
No worries, no worries. But I you know, I don't know a whole lot about Mormonism. I mean, I know a few things, obviously, because there's a certain amount of propensity to be like, okay, maybe I should look into this, so that if somebody brings up a point that I disagree with, I have a basis on which I can combat these ideas. And that's kind of why I brought up the idea of a wall, where it's kind of like everybody has, I think, a wall where they're like, okay, once you get to that point, you're not going to pass that point. And for me, that's the idea of, if you believe something on poor evidence or for bad reason, you could believe anything on poor reasoning. And I think it's a launching point. And somebody could accuse me of making a slippery slope fallacy, but I think everybody's seen it played out time and time again. I watched my brother-in-law go from Denver Airport conspiracy to New World Order conspiracy 2010 to, you know, a deep state conspiracy to a Trump supporter, you know, to today where he supports the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I watched that happen, and for me as well, we were having a debate on Discord earlier about racial discrimination, which we were talking about a little bit earlier. And just before you brought it up, you know, ADD, ADHD over here. I totally feel you, Amy, in that regard. Somebody actually once commented, on one of the streams, they were like, are all the moderators autistic? And I wanted to say, fuck yeah, and we're awesome. But That's
I was gonna say, I guess I shouldn't say love, because I was almost like when they're using insults to me. I guess the thing is not love, but they always use those sort of things, and the irony of all these of that insult is that they are stereotyping autistic people to basically, oftentimes they are basically trying to say something like they're emotionally devoid or something, which is what they're trying to say, like, is this comment autistic? And in the process of doing that, they are basically showing themselves to be an asshole who lacks the emotional empathy for exactly the thing that they are trying to make fun of. It's like this weird. Does that make sense?
It does, and I don't want to cut you off, but I want to add to that point, which is, or you run into somebody who is on the spectrum, as it were, and they say something like, "Well, I'm high functioning," in this elitist fashion. That's always kind of strange to me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm high functioning. It's like, okay, good for you, right? Like. High functioning to me means I live in Canada and I smoke weed all the time. That's what that means.
James knows that falls under. I have this thing. I have kind of a shtick. I have a million shticks, but I think that a lot of political correctness, and I'm not even supposed to talk about this because I have a lip ring, but I think a lot of political correctness falls.
That's
under,
the rule.
like, it is. Well, exactly. I shouldn't even be here. I should be dyeing my hair blue, among other things.
How dare you?
Hey, apposematism works.
I just want to say there has never been a long discussion where. Sorry.
Oh no, I'm just babbling and trying to throw in.
We'll dye our hair.
Yeah. Just want to say there's never been a long discussion where I was curious if someone had autism that led into a heated debate or anything here.
No, I was gonna say, because autistic people are just like, we just let it roll off of us because we're like, we're fine. You know, I think there's a certain amount of insecurity that's coming from people who want to, call people out and say, oh, I think this person's autistic. And it's like, well, maybe I am. But what does that say about you that you want to make a point about that? But getting people, not you yourself, right? Not you yourself. I'm not trying to call you out. I'm sorry.
No. It's just I'm not trying to be inclusive. I have no idea whether I am on the spectrum or not. I've been diagnosed, but it seems to me that's it's like, really, you're gonna call out a characteristic that you have no evidence that such characteristic is evident, and B, relevant to the conversation. What the hell difference does it make? We're trying to have words, but we're doing the wordsy thing here. Talk words and then we'll figure it out. It just seems stupid.
Yeah, one of the things I found with my autism is I often completely miss when people are trying to offend me.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's like,
well, it often, and this is once again, hold on, let me pull all the way out here. So you see do you see the armchair? Very specifically, here's the armchair. No degree in psychology. But it's always a form of projection. Always. Whatever they're trying to insult, generally speaking, us for, multiple, and I mean that whether you're neurodivergent, LGBTQ, whatever is going on that makes them insecure about themselves, it generally comes out as an ad hominem against someone else.
Well, and it's also the lazy man's army. If you feel like you're isolated by the argument and you can't make a good point, sometimes othering the person you're talking to makes you feel like you got people at your back, and it's a coping mechanism.
Well, I know a story about that. If you saw when I had Drew and Jackson Hinkle on, and the amount of times I had to crop his screen because he put up a picture of Jabba the Hutt saying that was Drew as like a fat slur, and then he put up like save Drew's dogs after saying like, oh, Drew rapes his dogs. So like I I was gonna say, I think I've experienced the extreme example of what you're saying there, of how somebody, misappropriates.
It's exactly like when we're kids. If you're in an argument with someone, you're not emotionally mature yet, and then they say something that hurts you, and maybe they didn't mean it on purpose. Sometimes you have that impetus to do the most harmful thing you can to them, just to feel like you've gotten back the initiative in the discussion. And most people fucking learn their way out of that, as they grow up and have those interactions. But some people just chuds and like incels, and like there's a group of people that seem to attract a lot of them, where it's like they're just so angry and they want to bring everyone else down to feel like they're better than you because they brought you down, and they're now part of a group that's higher than you, and it's depressing.
If I can come back to the original topic here, which
yeah, back to the Mormonism thing. Yeah,
it's like he did bring up an interesting thing though that I know Ember can probably relate to, maybe depending on the path he took out there. But he's like, you have to build a testimony. It's like piece by piece. And it's like, I didn't initially, accept that maybe Mormonism wasn't what it's claimed. It's like, I had to build up my testimony, as it were, that Mormonism wasn't true by giving myself permission to seek out evidence that the church did not approve.
I think it would be important purpose at this point to explain what having a testimony means in context.
The testimony is just your internal statement of belief. It's something you'll repeatedly bear to each other to basically confirm your belief, or in their belief, that the church is true.
But it's their primary tactic,
and is sharing and I forgive me. I'm not intimately familiar with the practices of Mormon services or gatherings or this. Isn't bearing testimony a big feature there within the church?
I think Materialist Dan was about to explain it better than I could.
Yeah, like they teach, like you gain a testimony by sharing it. It's like when you look at it from a psychological perspective, every time they're looking at that memory, it can be a very mundane experience, but you repeat it, you say it in a slightly more spiritual light, and you remember it more and more as a spiritual experience, and it's just reinforcing a belief until you believe it. I mean, it really is, and it's kind of the like Bryce Blankenagel, his podcast Naked Mormonism is really powerful, and because like for me it's what dismantled my testimony, because it was about 30 episodes in. He shows so much like just hard evidence that it's all bullshit, that like but like that's the thing. Like my point is that the dismantling or deconstructing my testimony took time. I mean, it took a lot of time, right? And it took like 30 episodes of Bryce Blankenagel laying out like every episode how bullshit it is. I mean, it took it deep into it after I already knew it was bullshit, for the feelings of I had spiritual experiences, like the feelings I had created over like 6 years of quote building a testimony by reinforcing it. It took me probably a year or two to deconstruct that, just because of the emotional investment it creates, like the sort of psychological like neural pathways that are reinforced of saying, like you've said it's true so many times, like it's hard to just tell your subconscious that you've stopped believing that.
So your testimony, if I can, your testimony is the scaffolding upon which your faith is built. And when Bryce or there are many other resources, Radio Free Mormon, when the testimony is pierced, when the scaffolding is pierced, that's when you begin to examine, well, if this leg is gone, what do I do with this one over here? Because it's not staying. Am I getting that right, or am I way off base?
I think it's more like there are a couple holes in the roof, then the tornado comes through.
Okay.
Sounds like mentally jerking yourself off. In a way.
Why?
Yeah, but this is the weird thing about the Mormon Church, and it's probably not unique to the Mormon Church. It's like this notion of testimony, I think, is really, it's one of the things that I found really curious about the faith, that it's kind of the same in Methodism, except that, our hearts are strangely warmed. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. Now it feels a little chilly here. Do I need a sweatshirt or something? But the whole testimony thing is one of the aspects of the faith that I've never really quite grokked.
It's also the witnesses. I was going to say the witnesses is what drives me wild, because if you look into the family heritage, or the family tree, I should say, they're all really closely related. It's like, how can you not think that there's something conspiratorial going on here when you look at the families and they're all intermarried and they've all got interpersonal relationships when you start digging into that history. Once again, I try to remain enigmatic, but I have looked into it a bit, and that always struck me as freaking weird. Is like, okay, sure. You don't think there's a conspiracy to make a political movement when all these people are vying for power in America, and they're all very closely related in a lot of ways.
The religious memetics of, I'm going to say memetics in terms of, like, I hate Dawkins, but memetics.
He lost his taste, didn't he?
No, yeah, he did. He's kind of lost the plot, but never mind that. The heritability of the heritage of the Mormon Church and the J-dubs and stuff is kind of separated by not only time, but not a lot of time. But anyway, the Mormon, at least the theology. Yeah, you're right. It's like 1820s to 1850s. It's like a 30-year period.
They're all part of like an 1830s spiritual revivalist movement.
Yeah. So
really,
it's all packed in there. It's really kind of weird, the whole thing. But it seems like the Mormons are like Presbyterians, Methodists. That's they also the wellspring of thought.
Not only that, but there were still extended gospels going around at the time from earlier periods that had more Gnostic gospels going around. So I mean, like, there's a chance that maybe this character that we're talking about, Joseph Smith, was influenced by these greater notions of like the apocalypse of Peter, and those more, like I said, the gospels that were removed later on and were more canonically removed, but they could have still been circulating during the time of Joseph Smith. So I sometimes wonder when I'm listening to those extensions of this mythology, as far as I see it, if that's where he was getting some of his ideas from, really, because some of it really falls in line with why there would have been, I guess, an importance on that in the first place, really.
Well, not to mention, we know there were books in the Palmyra Library, like Views of the Hebrews, where he might have gotten the idea of Jews coming to the Americas from.
Well, that was actually a very popular notion, right? That it wasn't not even religious. That there couldn't, when they discovered, when people were discovering organizational evidence of prior not hugely advanced, but clearly organized civilizations in here. People were the racist assholes that my ancestors were, the English. It's like, whoa, that couldn't possibly have been the Native Americans that did this stuff. It had to be somebody else.
Yep.
Yeah,
If there was any kind of civilization, it had to have started in Europe.
Well, I will say I saw you backstage, Wesley.
aliens.
I just came back, but
No, you're not gonna let Wesley on, are you?
I will say we go back and forth on whether we should.
I'm leaving if we do.
Who is Wesley? Let's have a little preamble for Ryan, who's new to this.
So Wesley Curry II, he's let's say a preacher type person. He spreads a very important message of God.
Oh, does he?
Yes.
So he's talking about me, is what you're telling me. We decided this.
If you were to take Christianity and Scientology for no reason, but because everybody loves nukes.
Oh God. Oh no, they're doing the hand thing. Oh.
But he kind of makes the tours of all the streams. I'm gesturing, but I turned my camera off. So yeah, he makes the tours of all the streams.
I mean, if he could like be on topic, it'd be one thing, but he won't be. He'll just completely go off topic.
See, what I found heartening is that I will say what really sucks.
He actually is a pretty decent musician.
Really?
Yeah. I went back to his page to see what the hell was going on with him, and he's got some pretty good music on there.
Oh, so
if he just stop with the doom-saying stuff and have a regular conversation, I think he'd be a pretty cool guy.
Can I tell you why I want to bring him on, and yet I'm just such an idealist? There was at least one moment where he came on. I hear this a lot in P-Town's voice. P-Town always just sounds like half defeated. Like, I assume because he became a Christian but Wesley came on once and was just, he sounded a little like, listen, everywhere I go, it doesn't matter who I tell. When I tell them that the apocalypse is coming, that the nukes are going to ravage everyone before a select few get raptured into heaven, and I point out that they have this dream just like I have this dream every night, they're starting to tell me that I sound a little out there. And so I'm getting feedback, and it's been harder to push that forward. So it's like,
I mean, I will be honest with you. For my condition, my doctor was like, "Here, have some marijuana. I live in Canada, and I don't dream anymore." I can't remember the last time I had a dream. Honestly, I do, but every time I wake up, I'm like, I think I had a dream. Maybe I did.
So
I'm not sure.
Sorry, working on that. I'll probably get it from Millennia. How many of you have heard of I'll make sure I've got this guy's name right. Terrence Andrew Davis, the creator of Temple OS.
He's the Temple OS.
I have heard the name.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah, I've heard of him.
Do not know specifically what.
As a side note, nobody take my advice. Continue.
He was a brilliant software engineer, but he had schizophrenia. So eventually, the voices just kept getting worse and more. So he committed suicide by stepping in front of a train. But you can download Temple OS, and there's a lot of features that are actually pretty good, but there are some features that just don't make a lot of sense. And it's kind of a shame, because if this guy could get control of it, he would have had an interesting open source project.
Also, just sending love in to all of our channel members, but sending in his love from Dr. Tapioca Weasel, who is reminding us, Mormon history is insane.
It absolutely is.
On a side note,
weird.
On a side note, because you were hosting Kyle specifically tonight, and the last time I was doing a flat Earth debate, I really wanted to get Witsit to answer this point, and I've tried to get him on it a few times. The goofy gravity that is flat Earth, the rising disk. of eternitude.
I fully support a pizza-shaped Earth.
Oh, well.
What,
How about
do you
that?
mean that model that we only have gravity because the Earth is constantly accelerating upward?
Yeah, that's
See,
the one.
what I think y'all should ask every flat earther on MDD is, on a scale of 5 to 10, how anti-Semitic are you?
I was just talking about earlier. Anytime that someone wants to tell you that they're like, listen, I know who the real JOOs are. All you need to do is say, thank you. That's cool. I'm going to go get my sandwich now, but you could like stay in this line. It's just all you need to do.
I understand that. As I mentioned earlier with my brother-in-law, he lives in that corner of the world, and I just don't engage anymore because, one, I already invited him to be on Modern Day Debate because he was a hardcore Liver King person, and I wanted him to go against the vegans that we hosted there. I can't remember their name, sorry. I think it was Brian and something or another. Sorry.
Vegan Gains. I only know him because he has vegan in his name, but I don't know any of his content.
But the point is, just to wrap up to the point, is that sometimes you realize that the people in your life don't have an impact that is worth your energy. In that sense, right? Like there's like, I think in Kyle's sense, like, you know, where he's getting out there and he's getting his point out there, it's interesting to engage with those points. But as for like the people that you engage with day to day, it's sometimes you have to gauge whether that energy is worth your time. Because, you know, like I said, their impact could be so minimal. I usually am a huge like warrior as far as like going after people. Like this whole, I have somebody in my life, I don't want to tell you what their first name is, but their middle to last name is Joseph Smith. And they are one of the biggest, they are one of the biggest metalheads I know. Still a very devout Mormon, very devout, or I should say Latter-day Saint. But we get along on our priest and Dio and stuff, right? So that's one of those funny things. That's, you know, you don't expect that every time when you run into somebody like that. You're like, oh, you're a big metalhead. And Rush as well. But, you know, we ended up sitting down and talking about religious issues, of course, because that's where I reside. And as for like the Mormonism debate, yeah, you know, it's one of those things that it's so strange that it seems so far removed from Christianity. You know what I mean? Like they
removed themselves so far they went into space.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like they're out on Kolob, but wherever it is, you know. But you know, they still think of themselves as Christians. So I mean, a few conversations that I had before I started working at the line, which, you know, if that wants to give you some insight as to where I was at as far as what I thought and think, you know, I still think a lot of those things. But I was going to say I was working at the line, and then I moved my way over here because it was a little bit of a better opportunity. And I like James a lot. I think Amy can testify. James is awesome.
I do. He's a good guy.
Oh, yeah. And he's a learning person, too. You know, he's not shy about that.
And I think we're going to get a 10th member on, but I'm going to say this.
Well,
okay. It sounds like you very much want to say something. Well, I'll let you, but hold on. Just let me preface this.
Let me mute myself.
We're going to let, in a second, we're going to let Sinister talk. Then we're going to get Beamsy on. But I also want to remind all of the creationists of whatever your flavor is, that James and myself will lovingly just sit behind stage with popcorn. So there's always really 2 spots open for you to come in. So if you do not believe in evolution and old Earth, the Big Bang, golden plates, apparently, you know, whatever it is, you do you. But come on and tell us about it.
No golden plates.
Oh, well, my Amy, God, I came back fuzzy. Ryan,
I wanted...
it just struck me who you are, and now okay, hi. Good.
Oh, it's all good. I actually have to go. My wife just popped in. She was like, you need to get some rest. And I really should. I got to go to the city tomorrow for a book launch, but I really wanted to hang out with Amy for just a little bit and say hello after my D&D session there because, we never got to hang out, honestly. And we always, we're kind of crossing paths at this point, where we're both working in the same space, but we don't get to say hi. So I'm glad that we got to share a space together. Let me know if you're, wanting to do any streams together and we'll hang out.
Absolutely. Like you said, it was great to finally cross streams. As long as we're not Ghostbusters, we can do that. And so it was fantastic not only having you on, but I would love to do, like I said, streams up and coming.
Absolutely. All right. Well, good night, everybody.
Yeah, good
Cheers.
to catch you
Good night.
outside of, the debate room.
And as I would say,
Good night.
everybody give this like and subscribe to this channel. Jordan Peterson would endorse you. He wants you to give it a like, even though it's very hard for him to work in a space with females. But do that. I'm not insecure.
Listen to the man. Listen to the guy and make your bed.
Make your bed, everybody. All right, good night.
Learn your ABCs and make your bed. That's what Kermit the Frog and Jordan Peterson both want you to know. Thank you so very much, Ryan. It was fun having you on. And
Yay, Ryan.
Keep on coming on. And all right, we're going to get Beamsy in. I think we got like an hour left in the tank. I'll preface that. James, do we have an hour left in the tank? Sometimes I say that, and he's like, "Bitch, we've been on for so long. We need to eventually sleep."
An hour, yeah.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
So, if you are a young Earth, if you can come on if you're an old Earth, we'll probably agree with you. And so please come on. But especially if you disagree with us, the time is sublime. It's yours. But let's bring on a Shmeemsy, a Beamsy. We are Midnight Ranting on Was Joseph Smith a prophet of, oh my God, Zod God Control. We're going to have to go back in time. And then if I have a flash and you're the flash, God, we are Beamsy. We are Midnight Ranting on Was Joseph Smith a prophet of God. People who don't
backwards.
People, yeah, thank you. People who don't watch DC or don't care about trailers, they're like, "What is this?" Or comics, I should say, are like, "What is this girl? She's making the same joke over and over again. I still don't get it the fourth time." You know who doesn't care? Zod. Anyway, Was Joseph Smith a prophet of God? Beamsy, welcome. How are you? What are your thoughts about the debate, the topic, or anything we've been talking about?
Well, he only cares if you kneel before Zod. That's the only thing Zod cares about.
Right. But yes, Joseph Smith, it must be very weird from like a non-American religion to just have American, just retcon, just everything. Just like all of history. They're just like,
It is very American-centric.
But no. I mean, the Jews were Native Americans. I believe
and they only turned red because of the murdering they did.
Oh, that was another thing. Yo, this guy had a picture, okay? And it was like of a dude stabbing everyone. And there was blood everywhere. And I mean everywhere in this picture. And yet there's like blood behind. Just like how, I guess on like some of the surface you put it over for Passover. You're actually supposed to put it directly above and nowhere else. And yet throughout the entire door, it's just filled with blood. On the top, on the right, on the left. And he's like, look, it looks exactly like the friggin', Moses story.
I just want to point out that murdering in the Book of Mormon is okay as long as God commands it. It's just like the Bible in that respect.
Oh, well, no, exactly. He was trying to say it was a prophecy, though. It was somehow the Mormon was connecting somehow to the. I don't want to say the canon because they're all just making it up as they go along. But yeah, great.
But like,
Anyway.
it's actually more insidious than that, because it's not just that killing's okay. It's if God tells you to kill, it's not okay to not do it.
Yes, go watch like one of the first R and Raw episodes where they're going over the story of Laban.
Well, like right now, there's a trial going on for, I don't remember percentage. I didn't pay attention because it's depressing. But Daybell, it's like some Mormons that, I mean, they went pretty extreme, and there's some murders, and like her like, what do you call it when you're like last thing, your statement before when you're sentenced or whatever. I mean, she just was insane, like the things she was saying.
Have any last words kind of thing?
Yeah, like, I mean, she was like, Jesus, I know that Jesus knows that, these kids didn't die because they're in heaven. And like, I mean, it's like Mormonism does have a very violent history. And so like it very much has this mindset that violence is, justifiable. And yeah, it's just, yeah.
Hey, I could tell you Mormons killed people on September 11th, and you would probably think the wrong September 11th, because most people would not know about the Mountain Meadows Massacre.
The original September 11th. They made a movie about that, and honestly, they were too nice to the Mormons in it.
Actually, my favorite thing about that movie is they thought they were being disrespectful for the Mormons because they were quoting actual Mormon leaders from the time. But yeah, it's like, as people have pointed out, Mormon history is bizarre, and it's fascinating, and it's interesting in its own right. At least up until they decided, it's like, we're going to go get along with the U.S. government and not do polygamy anymore. At least officially.
Yeah, that tends to be the fundamentalist religion, which they almost kind of consider a radical sect, even though that was the official.
Yeah, the FLDS is a bit of a trip, but I mean, that is a bit kind of a trade-off. Like, do you want to give up being poly, or have a state that you can then rule as if it were some kind of private kingdom with a few restrictions from the federal government?
But and the question of whether Brigham Young was a prophet is not the same as whether or not Joseph Smith was a prophet.
At least to the LDS, yeah.
I also wanted to point it out, it's like, if I remember the Book of Ether correctly, God also sends everyone into a berserker rage so they kill each other.
Except they only have to officially give up polygamy. They don't have to really give up polygamy.
Well, let's just say it still went on outside of the U.S., and it might have been overlooked by the church leadership because technically in the mainstream church, polygamy is still commanded in their scriptures. It's just you're not allowed to do it on earth.
What is it? It's what, 132, 232?
132, yeah.
Yeah, DNC section 132.
Yeah.
My favorite scripture ever.
And it's, and you can't get past that. How do you get past that? It's like, it's part of your commandments. How do you get past that?
But you have to understand, Mormonism is fundamentally, it is this patriarchal worldview. I mean, it's Christianity, evangelical, where it is centered on a man being a king of his kingdom, his little kingdom, and him being able to do whatever he wants. Right? I mean, that's fundamentally this just egocentric,
this tiny little
concept.
kingdom,
right? And I mean, the early Mormonism was like Joseph Smith kind of running a Ponzi scheme, right? And like he was just a scammer. Like it was an but to an average Mormon, it was an apocalyptic cult, right? The world's about to end. That's why they really did focus on missionary work early on, and it was successful. But then Brigham Young just ran it as like an actual cult where he was, and then nowadays it's like the attitude that Mormons have about spreading, like they don't really care. Like they just like it's about like
And
know.
I apologize.
Well,
I apologize to
Stephanie,
y'all
when
who.
you're done.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was gonna say
I-
you're gonna have the
I just-
stage, but when you're done, tell me because we're gonna get pseudonym in, and maybe he might have a different opinion than all of us, so we're adding something spice, or maybe he'll agree with us, which is be like Coco.
I just want to say to the LDS people in the room, and I apologize because it had somehow or another slipped my mind the Latter-day Saints aspect of the religion. That it is, in fact, I'm basically saying, Material Stan, you're absolutely right. It is an apocalyptic. It is buying in really hard to the apocalyptic vision of Christianity.
But they did exactly what happened in Christianity. Is it started off where people thought the world was going to end in their lifetime, and then when all those people died, they went, well, I don't know. They kind of changed their view of it. So like Mormons, I mean, they go in cycles. Sometimes they have like a fervor that, like, you know,
What
you
are
need to
cycles?
get your like food, get your food storage together. But like, I think generally they're not, like, nowadays they're not really apocalyptic, and that, like, none of them really believe that the world's going to end in their lifetime.
Well, that's what happens is they all get watered down. Like, they all believe it when they're like, there's 12 of them, or it's like, it's the prophet and it's Fred. They're like, well, I get Fred really believes in me. But then once it's like, you know, thousands, if not millions, it's like, well, we can't put a leash on all these people.
But what always was really weird to me about it is they know this history. How can they not? Like, how do you shut your brain off so much that you know that the original founder of your religion, who you believe is the voice of God, said the world was going to end, and it didn't. But now you don't think it's going to end. Like, was he lying?
I'm going to go back to a point, and I want to clarify something first. When you say this history, what exactly do you mean by that?
I don't think I said this history. Sorry.
Well, you said they know this history. I just want to make sure.
Oh, no, they know their history, the history of their religion. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So Joseph Smith,
No, they don't.
So Joseph Smith never gave like an actual quote prophecy that the world would end. He was a good bullshitter, so he never tied himself down on that.
I also think it's the way that they interpret information within probably Utah, very specifically, is that they view him probably as a martyr, and probably that it wasn't that he was a fraud trying to, a convicted fraud. It was that the government was trying to get him down. You don't even know. And I think they come at it from that perspective.
Yes, but the version of, let me, if I may, the version of history that the church teaches is not the actual church history. It's a very sanitized version. It's like, I didn't know about things like the multiple First Vision accounts, or Joseph Smith being convicted of being a gold digger before he started
Work
the church.
it, honey.
In fact, I would say there's not a single narrative that the church teaches about their own history that doesn't contain like a blatant fabrication,
unless it makes them look good.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Well, okay, when you were growing up Mormon, did they tell you the story about the golden plates and him reading them out of the hat?
And then I feel bad. Hold on, before you answer, I did say you really are, and I'm going to hold myself to it. You're going to give your answer, and then no one else. We're getting pseudonym in.
They told us that he found a breastplate with like glasses attached to it that he looked at the plates with, and it translated them for him, called the Urim and Thummim, which honestly to me it sounds like the D&D magic item glasses of true seeing.
That one's from the Hebrew Bible, though.
So I can answer that differently after pseudonym.
Absolutely. Actually, you just said the magic password. Ladies and gentlemen, that is where we go on an adventure. Pseudonym, we're Midnight Ranting. On was Joseph Smith a prophet of God? We're having fun. And what are your thoughts about the debate, the topic, or anything we've been talking about tonight?
It's a very interesting topic because, in one point, I would say that Joseph Smith was a prophet, but it depends where you're coming from. Because I would say no, but again, that coming from it really depends because
you had me there in the second half,
right? Because it really depends on and it hates for me to say it, but it comes from a racial stance because Joseph Smith was really racially intended in what he said. And that's why he said that people of dark skinned were less than, or pretty much the Americans, the Native Americans, because they were dark skinned, they were cursed. So if I was light skinned, then I would say yes, he was a prophet. Because I am not light skinned.
If I could interrupt you, I just want to read what I believe is a direct quote from Joseph Smith. I'm not racist, but no blacks. That's weird. Why would he say that?
Actually, he did ordain a black to have the priesthood, but that policy was ended by Brigham Young.
Yeah, he ordained a black man that no one knew was black. Like, he had to tell people he was black before they knew he was black. So, like, did Joseph Smith know he ordained a black man? Probably not.
But I'm also not going to say Joseph Smith wasn't racist because most people in the 19th century were.
Right. So that's where I was going to get into my second point, because that's why I don't think he's a prophet, because I don't think any prophet, if you consider them prophets, would consider your skin to be kind of a salvific position. And then that's one view why I don't think he was a prophet. But like I said, if I was light skinned, maybe I can consider him a light skinned because
Night purple. And
right.
And you're saying that if you were light skinned, you may be sympathetic to it, or you're saying it makes.
That's what I'm saying. It's really confusing because it would make more sense, because I think Stephanie said that she was European, and that's where I would have to take on. That's why it goes with the conflation of the Americas, because you have the Americas, and they were mainly European. But this takes on my second part question, which I don't want to kind of take too much of the time, but
it's okay. You're allowed to be the Dune of questions.
But it's interesting that like, say, I think Joseph Smith would take part in, like, not take part in it essentially, but he would amplify, like, the Mayflower, or the reason to escape the European religious I can't really explain it, but as far as American history goes, it's supposed to be that the Mayflower was supposed to be because they escaped religious persecution, right? But they eventually became...
That's complicated.
Right.
So that's at least on the brochure that they tell.
Right, but
it's on the brochure. It's complicated.
Yeah. But they eventually became Protestants, and that's the English.
Wasn't that why they left? They were having the Catholics and the Protestants were like, honestly, they just discriminated against each other.
The
and so
English
one
Reformation
group.
The Church of England stayed too closer to the Catholic Church, that they didn't appreciate that. They wanted a more radical Reformation.
And so someone else had something else to say.
Do you think it's possible that, or you're saying you think it's possible God like spoke to Joseph Smith? You think that?
I'm sorry, Amy was coughing. I didn't hear the last part.
Oh, sorry. So you think it's possible that God spoke to Joseph Smith, is what you're saying?
I think that it is possible, because Joseph Smith actually has some good things to say. It's just too bad that he came off racist, is what I'm saying.
Well, and to me, like, the reason I think the opposite is because God is omnipotent, right? God would have to know how people saw Joseph Smith in the future, Why would he pick that guy to be his prophet? It's literally the worst possible person you could pick, and you're omnipotent.
I was gonna say it's a weird pick.
What do you
God.
What do you think is something? What do you think something good he has to say?
Racist guy.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
What do you think?
Something good?
Yeah, just pick something good you think he said.
Yes, pseudonym. You said you think he said had some good things. I'm just curious, like what?
Like some good things that we came up forth, I guess you can say, is and it announces Christianity, and I know you like to hear that, but it's because he brought on the Father God, and he brought on Satan to be considered brothers, so they're equal to each other, right?
Before anyone responds, we have a comment from Pat, which I think bounces off this. Wait a minute, how is Mormonism any more ridiculous than mainstream Christians talking about Jesus walking on water, or Paul having a revelatory vision of Jesus casting out a demon? And so it almost sounds like Pseudonym is saying, look, they're not the perfect brothers of Christ, but they're brothers of Christ. Right? Am I kind of understanding you?
Well, I don't even think Scientology is more ridiculous. People are just used to Christianity.
Well, there's one thing about Scientology that I don't think people quite linger on, or maybe they get into. The weird thing is they'll tell you on later levels that earlier levels were bullshit. And that to me is a mind game. How could you ever trust anything they say if you get to level 4 and they're like, listen, levels 1 through 3 was bullshit? And you're like, because you're telling me the truth now, definitely.
Because your thetans are not aligned to actually foresee the truth within the truth. So you need to understand that you need to progress through the thetan levels before you can actually be prepared for the truth.
This is why they will not tell you about Xenu, and they'll laugh at you about Xenu, because they don't think you're ready. You're in the mindset. You have not been properly prepared to actually understand. And so when you talk about it, it's silly and space aliens, and of course you're stereotyping us and that stuff. You haven't paid the hundreds of thousands of dollars that I have to understand why there was a galactic war. We're going to get back to Pat's question in a second, but the tangent in there somewhere.
I need to correct something, though. You said that God the Father and Satan are brothers. That is not Mormon belief. God is the father of Satan and Jesus, and all of us pretty much, although we may have different spirit mothers. But let's not focus on that. God is the father of all, right?
Yeah, well, maybe I spoke too soon because... Well, it's supposed to be Jesus and Satan are brothers. I'm sorry, I kind of, you caught me there, but I was just talking on Christianity, and I feel like you're explaining that. But sure, you're right.
Yeah, and Satan is the brother of all of us too, technically.
And I just want to say that I agree with Pat. I would just say there's just something naive about Mormons, but there's something naive about within all of these religions. I know they look at it when we say that, and they're going to say it's an ad hominem, but I just don't understand some of these beliefs. I know at a certain point in my life, I even had some of them, but I also can be naive sometimes. So that's where the skepticism comes in. I feel like you have to, if it sounds too good to be true.
And in my personal life, I have difficulty sometimes not getting angry because of my childhood experience with religion. And so sometimes, like Kyle, the only value in debating with him is to get to the ad hominem point. He's not honest. They're not honest. And I'm not saying you should, and I'm not saying that's good, and I'm not saying everyone go out and pick a random religious person and call them names. But there comes to a point where you have to recognize, even if just to yourself, that the thinking processes that they're demonstrating are so flawed that they aren't what you're saying. They are naive. They're not being honest intellectually with themselves. And I think it's okay to acknowledge that, if not tell them to their face. That's rude. But to recognize that and realize that that's what you're dealing with is fine, because it's true.
So I personally, I think Kyle is dishonest. I think he's just incredibly intellectually lazy and arrogant and naive and a zealot. Like I think he's sincere. He's just
Well, there comes a point where the effect is still dishonesty. Even if he somehow, through his own thinking, got to the point where he's denying basic logic so simple a child should get it, he's still denying basic logic so simple a child should get it. And there comes to a point
but like his framework of approaching everything is so fundamentally different from ours. It's just he's not getting what we're saying. I mean, it's.
What is up, Subaru, Native Atheist, and Sumami?
Well,
What?
Not sure there is a way that, you know, how do you crack that egg? I mean, he's not dishonest within his own framework. He believes in the truth.
There's no way.
But you know, that's I guess when you are approached at the door with someone who's basically saying, are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you accepted? What, or do you know the truth of Jesus Christ? It's like, what do you do with that? Well, it's like, you can go, yeah, I do. I know it from this perspective. You obviously have a different perspective. I'm not going to convince or deconvert someone by basically saying you're full of shit and your beliefs are crap. And to be honest, what the hell why should I care? I don't really honestly care. You believe these things. I care about the beliefs that you carry on into my life. You know, it's like Jesus is Lord, and this and that and the other thing. And if in converting to your religion I have to stop being who I am, then fuck yourself.
Yeah, exactly. and to me, that the way you crack that nut, there's only one solution humanity's ever found, and it is a secular, multicultural society where you can close the door without being killed.
Yes, exactly.
Because the only way to solve that kind of disagreement with people of that mental capacity is why humans used to club each other with sticks and rocks. That's where you're at.
Yes, exactly.
I agree. One of the things I wanted, because I saw a comment, do you think that we are punching down when we target Mormonism? I'll tell you, I don't think we are, as long as we don't attack the person. But
yeah, so
anyone else have any feelings on that?
Yeah, like
I'm guessing all the ex-Mormons do, so I'm gonna let Materialist Dan go.
Oh yeah, like Bryce is someone who, like, our axioms are probably the same. Like, we have a very similar worldview. So like I could tell he accepted that you can't really appeal to someone like Kyle. Like, you're not going to change their minds. But like Bryce mentioned the post Kyle had with his daughter, and like that's kind of just the sad thing is like,
yo,
this
that
guy
part.
Like, yeah, so like, you know, he's indoctrinating a child, right? That's the thing. We can't just be like, well, I can't do anything about it. You know, it's, you know, whatever. Like, it does matter, and like that's the sad thing. Like, so like, you know.
Oh, I hate parts like that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Nathan when he's like, oh, I got banned from, because he goes to like different schools and stuff and tries to preach flat eartherism. And so he's like, he's exactly. And so he's like, I got banned. This school got banned at every school. And we're like, Nathan, do you hear what you are saying come out of your mouth? It's like, or whatever. Well, exactly. It's not whatever, but you know what I mean.
But like,
what else can you say to that?
Like, my view on Kyle is like, he's probably a social outcast. Like I would feel sorry for him if he wasn't causing harm. Is basically my feeling towards him, right? But like, he is causing harm. So like fuck him. Like, you know, like it's not. It's not.
I also just point out that, like, when you say things like "fuck Kyle," I had to like really fight hard not to laugh the first time I said his name out loud, just because the South Park is so deep in me. I wanted to be like, yeah, fuck Kyle. It's right, Kyle. You're a Mormon now. It's just,
And I don't think
sorry,
it's punching down.
Complete tangent, but
yeah, to talk about the question, I don't think it's punching down. We all, especially on debate locations, we all stepped into that ring willingly. It's not like anyone's there by accident. And I think that when you get down to it, if every different culture wanted to come together and say, hey, look, let's just all agree not to fuck with each other, not to make fun of each other, and then we all sign some kind of multilateral agreement not to do this, and it was held to, okay, cool, let's live and let live. But we're in the middle of, to Dan's point, we're in the middle of a society where voters are being educated by their parents, and votes impact everyone's lives. And a lot of people are voting religious bullshit onto everyone. And so this is a kind of a logical mental war between ideologies. And I'm okay with it just being to a place where no one can hurt each other. But it seems to me that the religious side always seems to want to keep pushing that line closer and closer to where they want.
As an ex-Mormon, I think you'll find the ex-Mormons tend to be more sympathetic than people who were never in the religion, because we know what it's like. I mean, I may have never gone on a mission, thank goodness, but a lot of people don't understand how much pressure is put on a young Mormon male to go on a mission. Not to mention, there were a lot of just areas of my life that I was kept from expressing just because my father thought, like, converting to this religion, even though we're Pennsylvania Dutch, and it's like if you'd research things a little further, you could find other religions with a Heavenly Mother figure that would have been more interesting, because that apparently was his criteria. And he thought he was doing the right thing, but he didn't really understand that, his homophobia and his transphobia would have long-lasting effects. So, religious people may be good people, and they're Mormons that are good people, but when they think they're doing the right thing, sometimes they're causing harm they don't realize they're causing.
I agree.
And depending on the circumstances, atheist people may be good people, but depending on the moment, they don't understand the harm they're causing.
Sure. I also just to say it looked like a flash second of a butt on the screen for a second. I'm sorry, my eyes go. We have about 22 more seconds. Sending so much
Beamsy.
love out there. We have about, like I said, 22 more minutes. So if you're a creationist, in a second, I will send the link back into chat. And if not, this is going to be the final girl deck. And we will be doing outros at the 2:30 mark.
Oh my gosh, I had forgotten that's a Garfunkel and Oates song.
It's probably a good thing I can't hear it.
Also, the debate is back up. I think there was a second where the debate, they were saying it was down, but it is alive. So if you would like to see it.
Hooray.
Yeah, it was most likely just processing.
Like, I do think that, like, obviously, like, I disagree with MDD platforming, like, flat earthers and, whatever. We talk about that another time. But, like, I do struggle to wonder what kind of harm could come from debating a Mormon. I mean, someone like Bryce, like someone who can always make them look bad. Like it doesn't really, like, no one's gonna become Mormon watching something like that. I mean, it's probably a good thing, like, in terms of,
Indeed. I view it like an antidote. I view what this show, and I view what people like R and Raw and people over at The Line and all of these shows that, promote skepticism.
Okay, I was just confused when you said them there, but I got it.
The whole enterprise of back and forth, whether it's in a debate format or just out there making presentations around controversial topics in a in modern day theater, and this is what this is. I mean, the cool thing about YouTube is that theater and showbiz has become accessible to people of at least of a certain socioeconomic category that can pay for internet, that can get their ideas out there, that can do this stuff. I mean, you can be a star, but the dynamics of show business are still the same. It's eyeballs on screens and asses in seats. And to the degree to which you are willing to compromise your thought about the message you want to convey to the revenue in terms of ego, money, this clout, whatever, that presents problems. It presents big problems when what you're conveying, even with the best intentions toward people you believe are you'd like to align with, if you don't listen to those people, if you don't take care to the message that's going out there, look around at the political situation. Harm can be done by a badly chosen word that gets 300,000 views. Be careful. This is showbiz. Be careful. Be responsible. This unless you want to create another Mormon church. I mean, this is how cults get created.
Well, there are aspects of Mormon that aren't always bad. It's just
I'm trying to speak more generally here. I mean, it's like Joseph Smith had an idea that caught on because of the cultural circumstances of his time. Ideas in this environment can catch on because of the cultural circumstances of our time and because of the reach that each and every one of us has. Some of those ideas can be really bad.
And most of those bad ideas we call religion.
If you're talking about who I think you're talking about, I think there's a certain type of creator that would have been going on about how evil feminism was, like in 2016. That they're just doing it to
I'm not talking about anybody in specific. I am talking about the concept. We got to be careful about this stuff. We need to be, and this is the problem I have with MDD. I have this problem with a whole bunch of places that don't put out explicitly that the notion that some ideas are crap ideas from the get.
Yeah, I feel you.
There's no two-siding any idea that has at its core the elimination of one side versus the other. There aren't two sides in that debate. One side is going to die. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, but the problem is people are more than willing to platform a debate over whether one category of people should have the right to exist and another should not. For the sake of eyeballs on screens and asses in seats, because that's where the clicks are, that's where the views are, that's where everybody goes. And at some point, we need to understand what our responsibilities are as creators.
Unlike God, who claims to be a creator but doesn't exist, or at least they claim.
Sorry for the seriousness, but I'm serious as a heart attack.
I mean, don't
which is probably in my near future. I bet, but really, let's be real about, you know, the Mormon stuff, the Christian stuff, the this and the that and the other thing. It's like, yeah. And the reason I get passionate about it is because out of all those ideologies, my existence is threatened. I mean, you know, I jump in and talk about this stuff because it has real consequences in people's lives. I mean, there are Mormon LGBTQ children who are being affected by the garbage that the Mormon church is shoving down their throats from the time they're born until the time they suffer their way through.
Well, I would certainly know nothing about that, but I just wanted to address something in side chat. The idea that, first of all, college is not necessarily a scam, although we do have a predatory student loan industry that we need to stop. Secondly, yes, you can learn a lot online for free, but unless you go through college, you may not necessarily get the discipline, or you may not focus on the right things. As finishing up my computer science degree, it's like there are things that I would not have even learned if I hadn't gone through a university.
Very specifically, what to do in a I'm trying to think of a way to make a threesome joke or something. Basically, try out your sexuality in college. Sponsored by college.
I was going to say, that would just be weird at my age.
Amy needs an Adam and Eve code.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you sign up at Adam and Eve / Amy Newman is making this code up, you will get 10% off as long as you pay 10% more afterwards. Anyway, buy dildos. What are we talking about?
I don't think the math works that way, Amy.
I think just to put a pin on the topic of platforming, I get that some people or some channels are all about free speech before all else, and that's fine. That's just a difference of opinion, although I'm definitely with Stephanie on the harm of platforming certain ideas. I do think that one responsible act that any platform that decides to have those debates can do, which shouldn't interfere with their ability to have said debates, is when the topic is one of those ones we're talking about that's sensitive. Sorry, my son's making his stimulation noises. If it's one of those sensitive topics, make sure the person arguing in defense of the minority is not Kyle or a Kyle level debater. I've seen multiple debates about gender issues where one side's literally a Nazi doing the absolute worst to defend their position, and it almost feels doubly bad, you know?
Yeah, this is going to be a really hard few years. I'm hoping, but really hope that because of us, we also don't tip the scales. So I don't want to get too much into it because I start rambling on, but the next year is going to be scary for our existence. Come on, people. Jerry Springer's over. We've already been normalized. We do. And we love our allies and we love everything. So please do not freak out for a type of right-wing nationalism that would just seep in from this one guy. This one fucking guy who doesn't care either way. All right, I'm getting closer and closer to what an orange target. Anyway, We are Midnight Ranting on Was Joseph Smith, Prophet of God, for 10 more minutes before outros, unless you're a young Earth creationist, in which we'll probably stay on here for the next week or something.
No.
She's like, look, what we have, James, when Ultimated joins. Listen, all right? I don't know if I could stay the entire day. I think if I crunch the numbers, I could get you 19 hours. We're like, oh, we were hoping for 20.
Time,
so.
No, I'm not doing anything for the next 5 days. So,
but he sets us up. It's not fair. That's why I swear the Pope, because it's not like he's like, yeah, I got nothing to do all day. He's like, come on. We're like, what? He's like, well, I have the next 5 days off. We're like, oh, well, in that case, let's go right now. It's okay. James, we've had claims, Bible studies. We've had a preacher on here who said he does 18 hours a day of Bible study. And he sometimes takes time out of his life to do apologetics here. I feel like that's very, what's the word that triggers them? Brave. Very brave. But yes, these religions, I'll keep on harping on like my bread and butter since we're coming out at the end. But the reason why they come after us is for 2 reasons: religion or in closet. Religion or in closet. There actually is a third option, however. It's a very fantastic, very hidden. Yeah, it's religious and in the closet. Though there actually is 2 versions of being in the closet. They come in 2 very specific varieties. A, we need to outlaw sucking D because of how yummy D is. And you're like, oh.
Only heavenly D sucking is allowed.
Only heavenly D's, exactly. From the Heavenly Father himself. Which, can I also point this out? I'm not kink shaving anyone, okay? It's just kind of odd that they call him Father, right? That they say, my Lord and Savior, and they talk about wanting to get on their knees. Does anyone else see a...
Well...
No?
It's old school
daddy
issues.
Of course, we have Jesse Lee Peterson, who only wants to outlaw women sucking dick. He doesn't want women.
Because that's a man's job.
I was going to say, good, I was muted.
I'm sorry. What's up, people? Must admit, Mormon stuff doesn't really mean anything. Soundly fan born. Yeah, it's one of those things that I want to just learn more about Mormonism. We were talking earlier. The Jehovah's Witnesses are kind of just odd, but so are Amish. Amish, I find I think we underestimate how weird Amish is. As someone who grew up in Pennsylvania, like, they're just a group of people that are like, we decide 200 years ago is when we're going to stop technology. Like, even if you thought the world was 6,000 to 10,000 years old, that's weird. Just to say 200 years ago, nope, none of this shit. None of this. Can't have no battery. And then they try and find like weird workarounds, just like the Jews try and find weird workarounds. Like if you've ever seen like a phone trying to work on the Sabbath, and they have these like phones that are dialing 24/7, so that like they can manipulate it and it's technically not stopping it. And it's like, you're getting around God. Like, why are you even doing Sabbath at this point? Whatever. Religion, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, it's like you go to the pearly gates and he's like, I'm seeing your sins here, and it seems that you worked on the Sabbath. No. I didn't log out of the phone at 11:59 the night before.
I just
sorry. Just stayed on.
Holes are for hell.
I just want to say the coolest YouTubers are descended from Swiss Mennonites.
I just heard Swiss men. That's all I heard.
I mean, do y'all think most people in religion, like a large, like long-standing religion, like genuinely believe it? Like people raised in it?
Oh, do I think yes. I think the reason why so many, but I'm going to cough, Wanza. So something like Christianity, they say things like "my Lord and Savior," and it means warm feelings. Like he died for you, and they say things like that. And to them, I can only imagine it gets translated into this warm and fuzzy feeling. To me, it's like, holy moly, you're saying you just killed a guy. However, I guess the long and short of it is yes, I believe that many of them believe it because they have been told since birth, or they've converted to that their religion is the baseline. Like it's completely normal to be that. I guess
I kind of agree with you because like my experience in Mormonism as a convert, like as a missionary, I often found myself kind of being like, well, most of the missionaries I was with weren't like they didn't really believe it, like not in the way that the more zealous like minority would. And my point is, I think a lot of people are conditioned. Like it's more just a culturally conditioned thing. Even the belief, even the thought process of believing it it's not something that they like have any passion behind. Is my point. You know, like, I think most people are just go through the motions, like the tricking God with the strings and like the Jewish community. Like to them, like they all understand. Like we have to keep up cultural appearances, and like there's this understanding that like we don't actually expect to like stand before God and have to justify this someday. But it's not culturally acceptable to be like, hey, this is stupid. It's more culturally acceptable to just go along with it. Like that's how I think most people are in religion.
Hey, I'm just happy my ancestors decided to stop being Mennonites somewhere around the time of the Civil War because I like technology.
Indeed. Yeah, that would be funny.
But I think when you approach religious people with this understanding that like they don't, like us skeptics, we're like, well, if this is true, the implication is, and this logically follows, and like they don't think like that, right? Like they're not even, it's not even crossing a lot of their minds that it could not be true or what the implication would be. That they just have this idiosyncratic worldview that they don't care about the contradictions.
It is reality, and so let's go do other stuff. We are eventually going to be judged. Well, just that I think they all think that. I think the Muslims go around. Go step. I think I swear, one of us was lagging. It could have been both of us, and so I am sending love.
I know. I'm sorry. The lag stuff is an issue. But Dan, what you converted to Mormonism? What convinced you to convert? We've gotten the deconvert part, but what convinced you to convert?
I was in an emotionally vulnerable time in my life, and having a community that accepted me and made me feel safe allowed my brain to accept the narrative they were giving me that justified my complete entrance into a community, that also alleviated any feelings of guilt through baptism and made me feel like I was washed clean. I mean, it's like, I mean, I could tell you a different perspective of that. You know, I was at a low point in my life, and God, lifted a fog, and I felt like this. I mean, I had this strong spiritual experience, but I mean, all it was me being in a vulnerable spot in my life, and a cult coming along and love bombing me and taking advantage of that vulnerable time in my life.
That was the word I was going to use. Is that very specifically, I saw this happen with, I hate to bring his name up because he's going to be away for the next 12 years, I think.
Yeah.
But Khalil, when he converted to Islam, had that kind of same experience, and I see it in other religious circles, and so it makes it much harder to leave, it kind of just self-reinforces, and you really have to have an uphill battle to want to leave, and most people don't want to do that. They want to pay their taxes, hint, hint, towards a certain creationist, and go on with life.
So, Materialist Dan, I have a question as someone who was born in the church.
And then, so here's what's going to happen. So you're going to ask the question, Sinister, and then Dan is going to answer it. When Dan is done, we're going to start outros. I'm just going to read some love out, speaking of love, out full screen before I just hand it off to all of you to do your outros. So that is what's on the menu for the rest of the night. There were no Mormons that decided to step up to bat. However, we had a lot of great ex-Mormons. This is why I love our community, because we come from all these different backgrounds, and it kind of gives us we can lean on other people's expertise when we need to, which is kind of the inversion that I feel like you have with a lot of religion. Nonetheless, Sinister, the floor is yours. You had a question for Dan.
Okay, yeah, and this is just a question I have heard like people who converted to the church have, that I wouldn't necessarily have as born into the church, other than the fact that not being born in Utah and not being born to Utah Mormons, and my parents not having a lot of money, they wouldn't have gotten the better church callings, which callings are basically free paid labor the church wants you to do, and then guilt you into taking them.
Wow, they really do have a connection here with Scientology. They're like free labor.
But after you converted, did you find like the people there got less friendly, or did that continue until you left?
So, like, did the friendliness wear off? And I mean, yeah, it does. It's actually a very common complaint with converts. Like, even as a missionary, within like 6 months, you're working with someone, and like it's a noticeable thing. Like, it's not subtle. The point, and it's from a Mormon perspective, it's the point when that happens is when they stop identifying you as a potential convert and start identifying you as one of them. They no longer feel the need to do that, right? Like, and so you become you go from being a prospect to being like, okay, we no longer have to put up appearances around this person. We no longer have to make them feel a certain way because they're already in, right? They've already, they're in the in group. And so there's this good feeling of finally feeling included, but it also comes with like that kind of wearing off. They don't have great retention. Like converts isn't really where Mormonism grows. It's almost entirely just from raising children.
Is it making babies? It's making
exactly.
babies.
You have to like talking about that testimony. Like, it really is you have to layer up a lot of like poisoning of the well, and to do that to someone's fundamental worldview, it has to happen when they're young. And so like I converted at 18. I already had a Christian worldview. Like I was already primed to accept that. But like honestly, that if I had come home from my mission and had family in the church, and like if I had a more accepting experience coming home from it, it's possible I could have worked through my cognitive dissonance in a different way. But being a convert, not really having that love and support, on the back end, yeah, it's noticeable. I mean, I don't know if that answers what you're asking.
Yeah,
and
it reminds me
James,
of when back in like, what was that, like 2004, when I was buying a computer. I got a Dell. I was buying a Dell computer, so I called up and I had something I wanted to fix with my order, and I called up. They got it taken care of, no problem. As soon as you get the computer in the mail and you try to call, they send you to Bangladesh, India. You're waiting 15, 20 minutes to talk to somebody because they've already got your money at that point. It's like when they're trying to get your money, yeah, you get, it's smooth, it's good, but then as soon as they got your money, they can take the mask off. Like, yeah, you're just one of us now. Fuck you.
Yeah, companies don't care after they get your money. I know this is a terrible thing, but oftentimes when I want an operator or someone to talk to and I can't, I like click the sales button. Whatever the option is, even if I don't want to buy something, I'm like, I'll get tech support. You wait. I'm gonna pretend that I'm gonna give them money. Oh my goodness. Though I'm probably paying for whatever the thing is I'm complaining about anyway.
I just wanted to share, I worked in call center management for about 20 years. And if you go to sales to get through the line, the salesman will probably send you to the wrong department. That hurts their commission. So the quickest way is to keep hitting 0. Usually that'll put you through to a live
So
person.
0 is the classic, okay? And that's true. 0, if you want on all of these, just because it's easy to set it like that. However, I'm just talking about there are certain companies where like they really try and fight you to speak with a person. Like it's somewhere
they've got like countermeasures.
It is, yeah. It's like this weird thing where you're fighting an upstream battle to really even talk with someone, even though there was a claim somewhere within buying the product at some time that it was, you're gonna have amazing customer support. Just like I don't care where they come from. I just want to talk to someone. Give me a human. No offense to my lovely synthetic children. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean these crude programs that are do. Anyway,
You can see like Uber, and Uber will tell you, yeah, we don't have phone support. How can you can't contact us. You can't. You find something in the app, and if you can't find like a prearranged like thing to click because your issue's not in there, too bad. We don't care.
No soup for you.
That's the way to do it.
And on that note, we are going to start outros. I'm actually going to say nothing before we bring. Well, I shouldn't say that because it's something. A nothing would be a nothing, and our viewers and our subscribers are a lot. I'm trying to say, I have not. I accepted accepted a bank account once or twice. I've checked, but not this because we have a lot of love and supporters. As much as I make jokes, I actually have just nothing but love. And what I'm trying to say is I'm going to blab before we start the outros. Nonetheless, outros. Woo! That's right. I do want to thank you all for joining us on Midnight Ranting. Was Joseph Smith a prophet of God? #no. Nonetheless, I do want to thank a whole bunch of people. One very specific person. He knows who they am, but I'm not going to show anything. Anyway, sending also love to pseudonym. Sumami, my pronouns, daddy, don't tell me out. Oh my. I sometimes tell people who misgender me wrong. I like lean into it hard and it makes them uncomfortable. I'm like, that's right. You should call me sir. Give me respect. Call me daddy. Want to get on your knees while you're at it? And at that point, they either whimper or go away. What's up, pseudonym? I'm sending so much love for the love and support. We don't kink shame anybody here, all right? We are into it all as long as you are legal, consenting adult, ladies and gentlemen. Really isn't that hard. A few waves of, well, it's been going on for thousands of years, but now because of technology, we're catching up and what's else out there? I saw more love. So sending love to that person. Sending love to pseudonym. Thank you so very much. And a $5 super chat. Sending so much love to Farron Sellers. Does Amy want more men? That's right. Now I want to see a more man in just the underpants. And I want to get a pole, trying to think of something, but it's made out of, I guess, gold. Got to have a seer stone, seeing something. But yes, sending so much love, Pastel. We have all these super chats and all this love, and I have not at all during this night done up There are countries that kill me for that. It's okay, because I can sing and dance. Sending so much love, Parents Alice, and everyone who gave us love. Sending love to Pseudonym, sending love to everybody, to Dr. Tapioca Weasel, a disciple of someone out there of many of days. We love him. We can't help it. Sending so much love. Sending love to Shane Billowitz. And all right, enough of me blabbing and all of the loving. I could gush. I can't help it. Let's get the people that actually have informative things to say on Pseudonym. We have been Midnight Ranting on Was Joseph Smith a Prophet of God? Lovely to have you on as always. Where can people find you, and what are your final thoughts?
Thanks for having me on, Amy. I have really nothing else to say. It was a good discussion, but it kind of segued into a realm that I really can't talk about. But other than that, I appreciate having me on.
Always fantastic having you on, and thank you for still giving your input. Sending so much love also to what? And Sigma and Titan or Sphincters, the second best name on the internet, tied for Stupid Horror Energy. So thank you so much, Pseudonym, and continuing onwards, we are going to go to Dan. We have been Midnight Ranting and Was Joseph Smith a Prophet of God? I really do want to see that play one day. And so I hope you had a fun time. Where can people find you, and what are your final thoughts?
How's it going? Yeah, I had a good time. You can probably just find me on this channel. I don't really have any content. But yeah, I think it's demonstrable that Joseph Smith wasn't a prophet and he was a fraud. I think people like Bryce and like Radio Free Mormon, people like that, they because it's a recent religion, it's demonstrable that it's not true, right? There's not really any question left. That's why Mormons, it's smart not to debate. But kind of going back to the love bomb thing, I think the insidious thing about Mormonism, why we should care, is that it fundamentally creates an experience for its members that kills authenticity, right? Like it makes people live this life where you can't be true, and it's actually really it sucks. There's children growing up that live in this environment that is just shit, and so I mean, it's good to give people the resources to get out of it. Anyone that's exposed to like critics like Bryce said, it'll be good. I think some Mormons that are going through cognitive dissonance, they look up debates, they'll come across that'll probably be one of the things that leads them out. So I don't know, but yeah, that's all I really have to say about it.
Thank you so very much, Dan, for coming on. Lovely to have your opinion, especially on this topic. And so keep on coming on. And yes, I really do want to send a shout out very specifically to Aaron Ra's channel and Bryce being on there. I think he did a great job in the debate. And I think everyone should check out him on their Mormon Bible series that they're doing.
Yeah, and I'll say one more thing. Like Bryce on his podcast, like he dives into primary documents to a degree that it's a primary or like a huge part of his podcast is actually reading like straight from a document. So like it's not like you notice Kyle would be like, well, there's this thing, and like he never mentioned a single source or anything. Whereas Bryce can literally like pull a thing off his shelf. Like the degree of research and like stuff he's read is impressive.
Woo-hoo. Thank you so very much. Go check out both his channel and Aaron's and the MDD debate. And thank you so very much for joining us, Dan. And I can't help but ask, have you ever seen the play?
Oh, the Book of Mormon musical?
Hmm?
No, I've listened to the soundtrack, but I've never gotten a chance to see it.
See, I want to go as well. I will
Yeah.
one day. But thank you
still
so
have your
very
name
much.
badge from the mission?
I do, yeah.
Did you ever go on the mission? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
my
really?
On it.
Yeah.
See,
I'll get you a picture one day.
That almost makes
Still
me.
LARPing as a Mormon.
I was James. You read my mind. I can't help it. I can't tell. There's just that's like the slight troll in us. I like to think we're not trolls. However, there's just certain things that just religious people just set us up for. That takes so much love. Thank you so very much, Dan. Lovely having you on as always. And all right, we're gonna keep on going down the list. Amber, what is up? We have been Midnight Ranting on Was Joseph Smith a Prophet of God? I hope you had a lovely time. Where can people find you? What are your final thoughts?
Well, as per usual, you can usually find me at Better Than Ember, but also on Aaron's shows. We're doing Blasphemers Bible tomorrow at noon Eastern Time. And I have to second that about Bryce. He's absolutely invaluable to the Book of Mormon show, reading Joseph's Myth, which will be on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. He's so crucial to the point that if he has to call in sick, Aaron considers canceling the show. It's like he's got that much expertise. There's a couple other experts, and you can make it work sometimes, but some of them have medical issues, and so there are occasions where it's close whether there's a show or not, and Bryce's insights are always invaluable. So I have to go watch that debate. You should too if you haven't seen it, because it sounds fantastic.
Thank you so very much, Amber. And that's right. The link to the debate is in the description. You should go check him out on Aaron Ra's channel and on his channel at Better Than Ember. And on MDD, because he does debates as well. So go check him out everywhere.
Yeah, when I can get somebody to fight me.
And all right, we'll keep on going down. Thank you so much. And Stephanie, we have been, in fact, Midnight Ranting on Was Joseph Smith a Prophet of God? I hope you had a lovely time. Where can people find you, and what are your final thoughts?
I sure did have a lovely time, Amy. Thank you for having me again. And, was Joseph Smith prophet of God? No. I'll say it again. That's what I said when it came in. But you can find me.
Nope, can't find you.
I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I wanted to play the credits after you said no. That was the whole joke. It didn't go instantly.
Okay, that.
It's like
that was the
what? What am I watching? I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dead. I've been killed by Amy Newman. I've been bitten by the transpire.
That would have
That's
been, if I didn't have a built-in fade sound on the music, which I realized it was in. It's like it does me well in everything, but that one joke that I just did in that 1 second. Anyway,
yeah.
Right back to you, Stephanie.
All right. Do you want me to be your straight woman?
Oh my! Anyone that's going to ask
is
me
that my
question,
is that my role in here? I mean, I'm curious. Anyway, no. You can find me you can find me on my channel, Steffi Cath, which is in my little thing there, which maybe somebody will put somewhere, but nobody cares. And you will find me tomorrow at 4:30 Eastern Daylight Time on Skeptic Haven, talking about misogyny. Feminism as the agent of Satan. On Women Atheist Unload. We'll be talking about that. And you'll catch me here and there on my channel talking about stuff that irritates me. And if it irritates you, if it doesn't irritate you, it's fine, but check it out. You know, I'm okay. And anyway, I want to say one thing that really effing struck me is Dan's saying that Mormonism kills authenticity. And damn it, that's what religion does. It kills authenticity. It says you need to fit yourself into this little box. And if you don't fit yourself in this little box, you're not part of the elect, the blessed, the saints, the whatever. And I hope that people can find within themselves a way to think themselves out of the boxes they've been taught and become who they really are. Become their authentic selves without apology. Anyway, that's it.
Thank you so very much, Stephanie. Check out Stephanie all over. She is on the line. I saw you doing a podcast with... You just did a podcast with Ember, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah,
I did. Ember
I wouldn't call it a
Bree.
podcast, but yeah.
Yeah, we did a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't we do a thing?
We did do a thing, and it's back up now.
We did a thing.
The copyright issue was the trans lions. Apparently, the BBC owns that, so that had to be snipped out.
God save the Queen and heaven bless the Maple Leaf. No, that's the wrong thing. Anyway, yeah, we're all good. We're all good now. Apparently, yeah, we did a thing. We were talking. It was kind of like an AMA thing for trans issues, and it got weird.
It did. I mean, well, you know, you, me, and Bree were there. Of course, it got weird.
Yeah, of course.
I just know that that's a threesome that I want to watch.
Oh, baby.
Anyway,
do it.
With that, we're gonna keep on going down the list. Thank you so. I heard absolutely something. Absolute tequila. We're going to keep on going down the list. In fact, we are going to...
Matasaro, me.
Matasaro, we have been Midnight Ranting on Was Joseph Smith a Prophet of God? It has to be that epic. I'm pretty sure, or else they, you know...
Yeah, so the answer to that question is that's going to be a no for me, Doug. And it's the same reason, honestly, that I think all religions are fake, is that every single one of them is not compatible with a secular modern world where we're not killing each other with stones. And any kind of omnipotent being that is setting up rules for his creations to live by for all time should be aware of what it's going to be like in 2023 and maybe not have those rules. So based on that, it's all stupid, in my opinion. I'm on still on Twitter holding the line for as long as I can stomach it. Lord Massaro. And just it was a great conversation, and I do want to reiterate again. I agree strongly with Stephanie. Be careful who you platform, everyone out there. Sometimes not hearing from bad ideas is far better than defeating them.
Thank you so very much. And that is always the question, trying to figure out. We've definitely had we've had one or two of those issues where you have to.
Is everybody aware that the X is pronounced SH? So it's not X, it's actually shitter.
It used to bother me that everyone took Twitter seriously. That's what, because I have been, as a 4chaner, as someone who has been at the very bottom of the comment section, like you could just throw dirt around. And it just always baffled me why media took Twitter very specifically seriously. And like I said, we're on Twitter or X or whatever he changed it to. But it just...
It's like Pingyang. It's like Zhao blah blah blah. It's like it's pronounced SH. It's shitter. That's the way it goes. So your what used to be tweets are now sheets, and it's like great. The man's a marketing genius.
Excretions.
And speaking of amazingness, speaking of the man who celebrates and worships only one thing, and that is dad ass, Beamsy, we have been midnight ranting on Was Joseph Smith a prophet of God? Lovely having you on. It's always lovely seeing you also, whether it is in the very specific debates or when we go over to Discord. Also sending love to Sumami, who also goes into those Discord debates. But Beamsy, we have been midnight ranting on Was Joseph Smith a prophet of God? And what are your final thoughts?
Well, he was a con man. Well, he was a con man, so he could obviously roll a profit. So he would have to be a prophet for God, or else how would he make his money?
Exactly. You got to think of the long term.
Yeah, you got to play the long game. But we all know the last word I've got to say on here is tacos.
Woo! Thank you so very much, Beamsy. I can't believe you would say something so politically charged at the very end of the stream. But we're going to bring it over to...
So controversial.
I feel like we've had two kind of headliners tonight. I feel like we've had Dan, and now I feel like we're giving it over to our other headliner, which is the one and only Sinister Porpoise, our two ex-Mormons tonight. Lovely to have you on. We have been midnight ranting on Was Joseph Smith a prophet of God? Where can people find you, and what are your final thoughts? Once again, I don't think you could say that actually on YouTube, so I think we're going to have to remove that post-production-wise, but... Oh, sure. You say that now without a filter. All right, she may have passed out. It's okay. In fairness,
I am muted.
Sinister.
Porpoise, come on.
I am the Sinister Porpoise. When you think of Sinister Porpoises, think of the Sinister Porpoise. I'm not really anywhere right now that I'm going to tell people about because I want to make it harder for a certain group of people to find me.
That makes sense.
They will find me eventually, and some of them have. But...
And then they will assimilate.
But yes, Stephanie did bring up something interesting because if you grew up in a fundamentalist religion and if you're LGBTQ in any way, it does have long-term effects. I'm not saying that parents won't screw their children up. They will. I mean, they mean well, but...
No, they don't.
Well, most parents mean well, not all. And odds are if you have children, you're going to screw them up in different ways than your parents did. if you try to correct their mistakes. But as to whether or not Joseph Smith was a prophet, that depends on how you define prophet. And Joseph Smith did have one successful prophecy, as Mormons themselves will point out. He predicted the date and the state the Civil War would start in. But if you look through his record, that is all he got right. To be fair, that's more than the Jehovah's Witnesses. So we've got to say it's like, did Joseph Smith do a good thing founding the Mormon Church, or has the church in its current incarnation and its previous incarnations caused more harm than good? And if you follow some of the news, there have been some concerning stories, including the fact that the church was hoarding $100 billion and not spending it on charity. But I would encourage you to search things out for yourself. And I would also encourage you to not do what Kyle seemed to be doing here, which is getting caught in a cognitive dissonance trap and going out and finding information. Remember, everyone, be excellent to each other, and so long, and thanks for all the fish.
Woohoo! Thank you so very much. And you should all be. Have you ever actually? I would love to see you do more debates against Mormons. I feel like this is something we need to set up. They just don't. We haven't come here yet, but I would love to see that happen. Just putting that out there.
If you want to set me up with Kyle, I'm going to need some heavy strength aspirin.
So that was a fantastic sentence. Yes.
Green alcohol.
Whether it is that or a hot date, though, is he a fundamentalist of that, or is he just mainstream, but he's a flat earther?
Fundamentalist Mormon generally implies that they're a polygamist.
That's what I'm asking.
I don't think he's one of the fundamentalist Mormon groups, but even those can't be too bad because some of them are quite ethical in how they practice their polygamy.
And listen, I can't really criticize poly relationships, or else my femboy downstairs would probably get mad at me. But that's okay.
Can't have that.
Exactly. Rachel and I will deal with that later. Anyway, let's bring on the co-pilot so that we can land the plane. But James, I think so. And unlike religion, we don't land in buildings. Oh, all right. Well, there goes our. That's. If we had any chance of having ad revenue, there it went. Anyway, James, we was Joseph Smith, a prophet of God, sending love. And what are your final thoughts?
Well, we always love these kind of debates. They're always interesting, getting to see what kind of arguments the theists will bring to the table. And, they usually do disappoint because they usually don't bring much. Tonight was no difference. But, yes, let's see. We got the producer here. Say hi, Gizmo. And
he looks both happy and sleepy.
Anyway, guys, thanks, and we'll be back probably sometime over the weekend, so check that out. We'll be planning out the next episode shortly.
Hells yeah. Whether we just got to figure out something fun, maybe a call-in show. We have a lot of maybe an impromptu debate you, but also I'm looking to get my teeth back in that Discord. Anyway, we're going to have a lot of fun up and coming. And with that, I should probably do all of the fivers and all the shillings.
The plugs.
Gotta plug somewhere.
What kind of plugs?
Oh, let me tell you, if you have an orifice,
Best plugs.
I have a
all
plug.
the best
Exactly.
plugs. You got to do that.
Some people are saying they're the best plugs. Right down there is, if you would like to be produced by someone who, what is that chemical? Hydrodexaclonin? I forget what they think. The QAnon people think. But that's what we do.
Hydrochloroquine.
Here you go. That's what we do. We drain it and then we throw the rest of the baby in the volcano. That.
Hydroxychloroquine?
You know what? I'm just saying yes to everything that people. At this point, I said yes to.
Dihydrogen
It's one of
monoxide?
those. Yes.
Close.
Maple syrup. I'm pretty
Kills
sure
lots of
there
people
is
every year.
It does. There is a serial trafficking underground ring for how you harvest maple syrup. In other words, there is a horror story coming to Canada. What are we talking about? This is 50. Anyway, I want to thank all of you for coming, on this episode of Midnight Ranting with Joseph Smith, a prophet of God, where we threw a modern-day debate-inspired after-party on was Joseph Smith a prophet of God for a good time worth getting your own planet. Join Colab. However, I do want to thank Peter for playing the sound effects in my head at night. And as well as ding, ding. I want to thank James W. along with our fantastic panel. Sinister, and Matasaro, and Stephanie, and Ember, and Dan, and Beamsy, and Purple, and Ryan, and Pseudo. And did I miss anyone? If not, I'm sending so much love to you all. And
James.
Oh no! Oh, I said he's always
Yes.
I do imagine him anyway, at least.
Let's not forget the real heroes, Buttercup, Penelope, and Gizmo.
Yes, very specifically the people who run basically society.
Don't forget Athena.
As well as Anathema.
Well, Athena Porpoise Feline Software Engineer helps me code.
Aw.
Okay, fair enough.
It makes sense. Sometimes you need to do pseudocode, and sometimes you need a cat. I feel like these are both equivalent.
And sometimes the cat needs to sit in front of your monitor so you can't see the bugs.
You know what I've seen a fantastic is that it was someone who had a keyboard, and then they had a distraction keyboard, like right in front of them. For like, because especially
decoys.
Penelope, she loves just going right on this keyboard and being like, "Hi, I'm here. What are we doing?"
And Amy. So you think that Penelope, Moonlight, Gizmo, and Athena, and all of the other cats were all scrunched together in this dot that exploded? You believe that?
Yes. And every time that you
I bet
say
you
yes
fit
and you
one
lean
cat
into it,
dot that size, let alone all the cats and all the planets and stars and moons and.
Have you ever seen a cat with a box? They will fit. They will make it fit.
Listen, I just want someone who understands informatics better than I do to explain it to Kent.
Well, the problem with a lot of these subjects is it's almost like they are paid to not understand it. And so they get told by the best stuff in the world.
Buy my DVDs.
He's a grifter? No.
Well, to be fair, I would just be happy if he would just stick to mangling like all the hard sciences and not try to bring in like the pure sciences that are mostly man-made into it.
I'm just trying to, I don't want my religion taught in schools. I want your religion taught in schools.
Why are you using my tax dollars to pay for your religion?
Do you suppose in 150 years people will be debating whether Kent Hovind was a prophet?
Yo, I mean, the way this is what I mean.
He's in the Bible. He thinks he's one of the
I
witnesses in the Book of Revelation.
But the way he gets treated by I hate to say the opposition, but they really do hold him in such a it's the same type of confusion I have with Joseph Smith. Just to tie it all back around, it's so weird how they can make such a scumbag like they kind of I hate to use the word whitewash. What's the term? Sunday school? They
Yeah, but he's
sugarcoat
their
it?
scumbag. That's the key. He's their scumbag.
Well,
That's right.
That's because they present a fictionalized version
Well, that too.
version of him.
I mean, both of those things are true.
Mixed between a personal injury attorney, a used car salesman, and a prosperity preacher, all conglomerated together.
And as a young Mormon, they pretty much put Joseph Smith on like, okay, he's not God or Jesus, but he's pretty darn close. And not to mention there's that weird Mormon hymn called Praise to the Man, which is a hymn to Joseph Smith. They'll tell you it's not, but it's a hymn to Joseph Smith.
That's a little creepy. Then again, it's all a little creepy. So just like Pat's original, thing, it's all
if you go call yourself
religion.
a prophet, you might as well have songs wrote about you.
Are you, every generation sends a hero up the pop charts. Joseph Smith, you pick anybody. It's like
sometimes
you
it's Cher.
Pick your fucking heroes, I guess. But try not to have any. Maybe would be a better idea.
And listen, sometimes it's Cher, sometimes it's Britney Spears, sometimes it's Kent Hovind.
Right.
One of these people I'm gonna have on my wall.
And I would like to apologize to the entire nation of Scotland because that hymn is sent to the tune of Scotland the Brave.
I apologize, Scotland, which is an interesting sentence in and of itself.
Yeah, are you apologizing to New Scotland as well, or are you just Scotland?
Just Scotland, I think.
Just Scotland in general.
Okay, fair enough.
Generalized Scotland. Or, but not only that, don't forget to like, follow, or subscribe out there on the interwebs. Or, hey, I can't really make fun of this anyone because they're slowly growing as a human being. James, we're not going to make any gay voice.
No, we're not.
I'm already too deep. I love everybody, though. I know. Not going to do
What
it.
Why have you done?
Or, hey, just
get
leave
that
a
out
comment.
of your mouth, Amy. Come on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me go down. Leave a very heterosexual male comment. That's right. This person has that voice. You could also leave a super thanks, which is kind of like a super chat, but afterwards. And also sending love to all the people who sent us super chats. But as well as all of our supporters out there, all of our amazing channel members. We had gifted channel members within the past. We want to send love to all of them. Your names are up there as like any other channel member. You are part of our Skeptic and Ranting family. You are now listed down there, so go check it out. Also, if anyone ever doesn't want their name in things, whether that's credits or something out, also feel free to reach out to me. But yes, sending love to all of our channel members with our evolving badge system. It triggers creationists, as well as the best way to help us get around all of the side and get some special perks. And very perky.
Oh
my.
Amy, we know you don't love anybody. You love everybody.
Oh, that's right. And specifically on my knees. I need more emojis as well. I love these emojis. And however, they only want to make me get more of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Emojis are the most fun.
Exactly. And I just want to make like a creationist series. There's got to be more. I should just make like a sponge in a Hawaiian t-shirt and no other context. Yes, exactly. What? Why are you showing a sponge with a rainbow? That is random with no arbitrary meaning.
No association with anybody we may have been talking about a moment ago.
None at all. Oh, maybe I'll have it like have a little hammer. So it'll be a sponge with a Hawaiian t-shirt and a hammer. And nothing else.
I'll see if we can borrow Mark Reid's new band hammer emoji.
Sending love to Mark Reid. Mark Reid triggered someone on Brett's channel the other night. I was like, they were like, you sound like Mark Reid. You're making a point just like Mark Reid. And I'm like, oh, fantastic. He could compliment me more. Oh
Wow,
my.
got a super chat.
Wow.
A
Okay,
super chat.
I do
a red
have
one.
to. I'm gonna both have me celebrate it and then everyone celebrate it. Because that's like a just have to send so much love to Sigma, who is giving a gigantic $50 super chat. Now this really just because I like to. But yeah, sending so much love. I like how that dance gets slowly darker. Like it starts out like I attempt to be sexy, and then it's just like, what if we're grooving? Yeah. Sending so much love, Sigma, and then I want everyone to just celebrate this. I guessed it right the first time. It's gonna be a little bit off anyway because of that. But we're sending love to you, Sigma. Double heaving scoopings.
Whoop,
and and I think you're going to be our last comment of the night. I'm just going to keep on reading while you're up here. What else? Our Patreon, patreon.com/Amy Newman. I am Amy Newman, and we will all see you on the next episode of Skeptic Ball Z. Good night, everyone. Mwah.